The planning board, maybe somebody can close that door. Thank you. May we have a roll call, please?
Chair LaFaro,
Present?
Vice Chair Finnerty,
Present.
the Secretary is here. Board Member Catalinato,
Present.
Board Member Mutu,
Present.
Board Member Neely,
Present.
and Board Member Fulham.
Present.
We have a full board.
Thank you. Please join in for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Gloria, do we have minutes to approve?
We do not.
No minutes? So we will go a bit out of order, and we're going to call up the referrals, the town referrals, please. We have two of them. One is the ag fencing, and one is pickleball, which was a walk-on.
Yes, but it was also
And I-
welcome to the town board. So it's
David,
late
you could
season.
come.
I'm just gonna take notes.
Christine, you want
Come up.
here?
Does anybody need a copy of either? I have both of them.
Yeah.
Here, we'll start down there. That's the pickleball one, and this is the ag fencing one.
Let's do the easier one first.
Ag fencing, I'm assuming, is the easier one?
Yes.
Okay, so the ag fencing amendments, are basically, as you already know, if you want to get agricultural fencing right now, if you are located in an agricultural overlay district, you go to the building department sends your application to the planning board, and the planning board reviews your applications for ag fencing. And you guys have all the criteria, like has to be actively used, has to be, maximum height can't exceed 8 feet, et cetera, et cetera. The town code also allows properties that are preserved by easement or where the development rights have been stripped off, they apply to the planning board for a construction permit. And then they get that based on the same criteria. Actively used, explored alternative, fencing,
talking
nothing's
about
worked.
fencing?
Agricultural
Okay.
fencing.
Just fencing, because you said construction, so I was thinking,
No, for a construction permit, they have to go, remember, you know how people come pursuant to 330, either 50 or 51 on the ag properties that are preserved by easement or development rights? They apply for a construction permit to put up the fencing.
you were just talking fencing, not other things.
Just fencing,
Okay.
correct.
That's
I'm
what I
only
just-
talking about fencing
Okay.
right now. So all of those scenarios now, Councilwoman McNamara has proposed that they go to Janice, or whatever Janice is titled, the
Administrator.
Town Planning and
Right.
Development Administrator.
Yeah, we've requested that
Okay,
a long time
so
ago.
that's perfect, so that's
Yeah.
the one scenario. When I presented this to the Ag Advisory Committee, they also suggested that any properties, right now, anybody else who wants these, anybody who lives in a regular residential area who doesn't have an easement on or doesn't have development rights stripped or isn't in an ag overlay district, they go to the ZBA to get the ag fencing, and then the ZBA makes the same inquiry that you guys would make. Are you farming it? How are you using it? What have you explored? The Ag Advisory Committee asked that those properties also be able to go to the Town Planning and Development Administrator, so long as they can prove to her, and I wrote it down because I couldn't remember it, they have to show her a property record card that you get from the assessor's office that says in agricultural production. So that's what this is for, basically to just make it a lot easier for people who are truly farming to get the ag fencing without having to go either to the planning board or to the ZBA.
So why did the ag advisory want this addendum to be put in?
They just wanted to allow, instead of sending everybody to the ZBA, since I've sat with the ZBA, we've seen maybe like 4 or 5 of them. And they were, people were truly farming the properties, and the Ag Advisory Committee thought, if your property's already being assessed for agricultural production, you should be able to benefit from this as well.
So that's a requirement.
The showing the property record card. In addition to all of the other criteria, which is, the height doesn't exceed 8 feet, the property's in agricultural production, they can demonstrate economic loss. all
So
of
it's
those.
just agricultural property that's outside the ag protection overlay district?
Correct.
Yeah.
Outside that district, or doesn't have an easement, or doesn't have the development
And
rights
once the
stripped.
farming stops, the fencing has to come in.
Correct.
That's part of
Yep.
it. We had, yeah.
So that's the proposed amendment. We're gonna have a public hearing on it on November 28th.
Anybody else have any questions or
think we have any issues.
recommendations? We're pretty familiar with this.
But we're still-
I know you are.
We're still
Yeah.
leaving the maximum height at 8 feet.
Yes.
Even, but it can vary it somewhere between
Correct.
whatever
6 and
height
8,
up
yep.
to 8 feet.
But
How
it's
does
not
the-
changing the zoning, it's only
No.
agricultural properties.
Correct.
Right, so how does that go on the property record card? Someone requests,
I believe, again, it's from the assessor's office, but I believe if you're showing that you're using the property for farming, then you must be assessed for farming, and there must be like a categorization, like I know for a single-family dwelling, it's like 211. I don't know what the number is for agricultural properties, but everybody on the Ag Advisory Committee was like, oh yeah, just show your property record card.
Yeah, I'm assuming they're taxed at a much lower rate because
Yes.
it's agriculture as opposed to, even
Yes.
though it's not protected, it's currently agriculture.
I believe so.
And the permit will be subject to, once issued, will be subject to inspection and a CO on the property?
A what? Oh, for the fence? Yeah. Yeah, they'll get a building permit, if Janice thinks they meet all the criteria, she'll approve it, she'll send it back to the building department, they'll issue the permit,
Permit.
then they'll go back out and inspect it, make sure it doesn't
So-
exceed 8
yeah,
feet,
so
make sure
that-
it's exactly where it's supposed to be.
That's no different than if we said yes.
Correct.
And the material is specified in here?
I don't think it's anything different than what was in the code. I didn't change anything like that, so I don't,
Just make sure that it's in there, because there's ag fencing and ag fencing.
well, I definitely didn't change anything, so I don't
Well,
know if that's something.
item B talks about, one of the criteria is that alternative types and heights of fencing materials have been investigated. So does that leave it open to have
Well,
different types of
no.
materials?
No,
Do you
that
remember,
was
Dennis,
more,
what it
that was
was?
more showing,
I thought there was,
that was more showing that I
Showed the-
tried a 4-foot
showed
fence,
the
and the deer still were able to
size of
hop
the
the
webbing.
fence.
Yeah,
there a
we had
definition?
indicated the type of fencing and the posts and the,
I thought that
do you
was in the
remember that
original.
language?
Yeah,
Isn't it
and
in the
it
original?
has to be kept, you have to keep it clean, that
Clean, right.
leaves
You
don't
have all of
stick to
that?
it and all that stuff.
Well, your section would have been 33109E2.
Do you want to just suggest to Janice that she use a similar wording that you have in the
It should be
resolution?
exactly that.
But it doesn't have to be in the code per se, it might be just something to use as your.
I think it should be in the requirement.
But you know how in the code, those are ones you've made up over the years, and then you've just been carrying them around for the,
Yeah,
resolution.
it's
like
not currently in
that
the
on
code.
Page 2, item B, it should specify, like, whatever word and definition is specified in the code, to your point, because then you have to reference that for the material.
There's no
versus-
materials referenced
any-
in the
Not
code.
referenced in it, should
No.
be.
I
There's
think it
no-
comes from our
currently,
resolution.
there's no
No,
materials.
that's been just over the years.
Right, do
people-
we have the wording for that though?
We definitely do in every resolution
Yeah.
that we do.
Well, that should be, we would make the recommendation that the type of fencing be included in here. And I don't know that you want to, alternative types and heights have been investigated. I don't know what that means.
That's currently in the code. I think what that means is that the applicant comes before whoever, and they're like, we we can't live without this 8 feet. We've tried the 4 feet, the deer are hopping over it, we've tried to comply with the town code, we can't. I mean, that's at least the showing that the ZBA has seen, and it's part of the code now, so I'm assuming that's what they tell you guys.
Yeah,
It's
well,
just-
it's pretty straightforward with us. I mean, there are just no what ifs. It's pretty clear.
Mhm.
It has to be kept clean, both sides of the fence. I don't know that that's in here. That has to be removed if the farming operation
Right.
ceases.
Well, those sound like they're conditions of your approval. Those aren't requirements of the code.
What I'm saying is that the admin, just suggest to Janice that the admin be the same wording.
Exactly.
You know, carry on because you've been over the years refining that language and gotten to
Right.
this point, which is very consistent.
Yeah, Dave, you have that?
I've written it down.
More
Okay.
important, shouldn't we physically define agricultural fencing? in
Right,
the
that's
code?
what I'm saying.
Yes.
It's like,
A definition.
yeah,
A
what is the
definition.
definition? We have definition of
Yeah.
agriculture.
And
we
then
have
that definition, that's where we can incorporate the design standards,
Right.
right?
That's a good point.
Because otherwise, it puts the planning and development administrator in an awkward position to say, oh, well, a beautifully designed 8-foot fence could protect crops as defined by this, it's not ag fencing as we know it,
Right.
and so it leaves it open to interpretation.
is a very
should
specific
get a
kind of
defi-
fencing that.
So that
Definition, yeah.
it doesn't
Wanted.
affect the view shed. You know,
Well,
it's,
Yeah, I mean,
Enough
that's-
of it
that's a good
eventually
point.
does, you know, people have accused it of living in penitentiaries, et cetera.
Yeah, well,
But
that's-
this open weave, certain size,
Yeah.
with wooden posts as natural as possible, that's what we have specified over the years, and that's what should be included in the definition
Definition
of
section,
ag
yeah.
fencing.
because it really, it does, it's part of the view shed. That's the reason that
Mhm.
we're allowing the fencing, but we want it to be as unobtrusive as
But
possible.
but I guess, just to be clear, because you want this to be added, every application that you ever approved has had the exact same type of fencing?
Exact,
The exact same type of.
exact same
okay.
fencing.
Claire would know.
Yeah.
Is it?
There's not a.
Yeah.
Wooden
Yes.
posts with turkey wire, basically.
Well,
There's
but
no
no, we
variation.
defined
Yeah.
the,
But in order to be in the town
Dimensions.
code, it's gotta be enforceable, so it's gotta be exactly the same. If
Yeah.
we leave it the way that it is, Janice has some discretion
Yeah,
as
but
to
she-
what color or.
But
She should
again,
know.
she shouldn't have to do that. It
Yeah.
should be
If it's a
straightforward.
true agricultural operation, that's the
Yeah.
kind of fencing they're gonna put up, and I think that's why we wanna create a backstop
You
here.
don't wanna end up
because
with
there
a,
are,
you know, solid vinyl 8-foot fence,
you know, ag easements,
Yeah.
Yeah.
residential.
with a
Okay.
different material.
So our strong recommendation would be to include those specifications.
design specifications
Design specifications,
into the,
Into the code.
and Claire can give you that wording.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, so as amended, we'll take a vote.
motion.
Motion by Dennis, second by George, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor. Okay, now there's pickleball business.
Yep. So the second proposed amendment was literally just a walk onto the town board meeting this past Tuesday. It was in response to some complaints that the building department has been getting, the supervisor's office has been getting, that pickleball is very loud and the setbacks for pickleball courts should be increased from your normal accessory building and structure setbacks, which can be 8 feet in the R10 and up to 50 feet in the CR 200. So what is proposed is two alternatives. For a brand new pickleball court, this amendment says that you have to have a 50-foot setback and it has to be in your required rear. So we're trying to push these courts into the required rear yard, not necessarily just behind your house, but into the required rear. If you can't meet the 50-foot setback, or you don't want to meet the 50-foot setback, this proposed amendment allows you to use a 30-foot setback, but the court has to be sunken and it has to have the sound attenuation wall on 3 sides of it, which is enclosing it to your neighbor. You know, you can't keep the open side open on that side. So that's what's proposed. Second, they are allowing people, because right now you can build it with, you know, the regular setbacks, not sunk, no screening. Right now, you can convert your existing tennis courts and your sports courts, wherever they are, which could be an 8-foot setback, into a pickleball court. So this proposed amendment pretty much uses those same standards if you're converting a legally existing sports court or a tennis court,
So if your tennis court is not 50 feet from the property line.
right now.
You cannot convert it.
If it's not 50 feet, you can't convert it. If it's 30 feet, you can convert it, so long as you sink it and put this fencing or the
So if you
sound
have,
attenuation
if
around
you
it.
have an existing tennis court that's on the surface.
Yep,
You would have to take up that tennis court and sink it.
yes.
It,
Or apply for a variance.
I mean, I think,
I mean, it sounds like what we're suggesting to be built is kind of really ugly. And I understand, I'm not a pickleball player, but I understand they are very noisy. And I think East Hampton Village was
North
looking
Haven.
at a code and they decided to actually prohibit them, period.
North Haven, I think. North Haven Village.
as well.
And it
Yeah,
was
no, East
East Hampton.
Hampton hasn't prohibited them, and neither has Sagaponic. They are both regulating them.
Yeah.
East Hampton might have had a moratorium, but now,
It's the village, not the town.
the village.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I look at this and read it, and it's a code enforcement issue. What kind of specification for sound attenuating materials are you going to accept? Are there a variety of them? What's going to happen if you can't take up your tennis court and sink it? There are all kinds of problems that I think what you're doing is clogging up the system without really looking at this attentively. I think it needs a lot more thought and revision.
Do you know where they got the specification, if you like, for, you know, sinking at 4 feet Instead of 3 feet, 5
They
feet,
came,
whatever.
it came from I think either Sagaponic or East Hampton Village.
You know, has anybody done studies? Because
I'm sure we will hear studies at the public hearing that this isn't enough.
I've
They
I've
want
just heard
increased
again
setbacks.
from a lot of, across the country, you know, you read stories about, it's the sharp sound that that particular ball makes when you hit it, that kind of penetrates, you know, the psyche and the calm of people who lives next door, so.
Maybe I'm stating the obvious, but I think one of the most important components should be whether in this code, that
Trees.
pickleball shall only be conducted on an approved pickleball court. I mean, you can see, I don't know anything about pickleball, but I would think you
Can
could
play it in your
set up in your
Yeah,
driveway,
You can.
that's true.
you know,
You're right.
5 feet from your neighbor's property. So that's,
And in
I
the
don't know
front
what
yard.
belongs here,
Right.
because it's just specifically to the courts. But
But it should be incorporated into it. So good
somewhere
point.
that,
This
you
is not
know,
enough.
Are there any decibel studies related to the noise code as
Well,
well? or-
I'm sure the town board will hear some, you know, I mean, somebody submitted a study to the zoning board, I mean, it's, you know,
Yeah, it's a
at this
big-
point, the town is just kind of trying to
It's
get ahead of this.
surfacing all over the country.
Yeah,
There's lawsuits now.
Yeah.
lots of complaints, but I don't believe that this legislation, as it's drafted, is sufficient. That is my opinion.
Okay. Anybody else have anything that, just multiple questions and concerns?
So
Yeah.
right now.
But bring
would
my
it-
concern to
Would it help to
whoever
have
is drafting. 'cause-
I'm drafting it.
Oh,
You're
there
drafting.
you go.
Yeah, but to your point, that is definitely a code thing. I mean, there's no way that, you know, we could legislate that you can't just pop up a
A ten,
a
a net.
pickleball net in your yard. I have one, you know, I mean, you'd have to call code, and what would you say?
Where do you
But
live?
there's nothing right now, there's nothing in the code. I can play basketball in my driveway, or
Sure,
Yeah.
that's what
I
I'm
can
saying, you
hit the
could do
tennis
anything in
court.
your
But
driveway.
pickleball is, sort of rises to the level of a nuisance use.
But
If
some,
it's-
but some people will tell you a tennis court will either. There's
Absolutely.
Well, yeah.
legislation-
Absolutely.
I mean, court cases of people who have a tennis court close to another
Mhm.
neighbor,
Yeah.
that they
And-
can't bear it
And
anymore,
if they're lighted?
right?
Oh, yeah.
So there's lighting,
Yeah, that's
there's
the other
all
thing.
We have a
kinds of
lighting
stuff
code.
that's-
Yeah, lighting, there, you can't, the lighting is addressed by the
Yeah.
dark
Yeah.
skies.
Are the courts subject to examination by the town engineer? Casino, that you might have runoff issues? There's
I
all
think to the
hardened
same degree
surface.
that the tennis courts are. I mean, you know, you present your building permit, I don't know if you have to show, I mean, you know, I think it's just like everything else. You have to maintain your stormwater on your property, but I don't think they're looking at the engineering part of it, I don't.
Well, you
It's
know, you're
really
gonna
the
sink
noise
something
that's
for.
the
it's-
issue.
yes.
Right.
But whoever said to sink it 4 feet, you know, and fence it, what happens to the accumulation of rainwater? What happens to drainage?
Well, you show that with the
Drainage.
building department, just like you would build a house or build a pool, I mean, all, you know.
But,
Yeah.
but that has to be reflected in here. that
But no,
plans-
this is just like any other accessory building structure or use. I mean, the building department is still issuing permits for these things. We're just trying to establish some setbacks or some parameters, that's,
Yeah.
Right. Well, I think it's
That's
too
all.
loose,
okay.
okay?
Is there, could we recommend a moratorium to study it so that additional ones aren't being approved while it's being studied?
You could
Yeah.
recommend anything. This
I
is your,
would.
this is your referral to the town
Putting it out
board,
there.
so.
A pickleball moratorium.
I mean, that's what you're saying that
New
they
York
did in
tabloids will
East
pick that up.
Hampton.
Yeah.
Somebody,
post.
somebody did. I don't know if it was
One of the
Sagaponic or East Hampton,
municipalities
yeah.
did that,
I
said
think
don't
it's
approve
done.
anymore.
Yeah, somebody did.
until
Yeah.
we figure this out. And then looking at the noise regulations, because we have lighting, light pollution regulations, are there any noise limitations in the code during the daytime? I know,
Yep.
like, you know, so like,
Yep.
looking at studies of what is the decibel level of pickleball, maybe it would be better than regulating the courts themselves through building code.
Yeah, well, I think it has to be
like
both, right? The
impact,
neighbors are gonna
right.
say this
Yeah.
setback is insufficient and it will violate the noise ordinance. I mean.
Right.
And you might need to have times of operation and, you know, times of playing pickleball. And again, it becomes a,
Yeah, then
You
you're
know, code enforcement,
over-regulating, I mean, you're
It's a unique-
strangling.
It's a unique aspect of the type of noise, because
Yes.
it's not gonna trigger a decibel reading, but it's that
The thing for them to
It's
do,
a very
the
high-pitched
industry, is to
noise.
Yeah,
design
like
a
you're out
ball
next
that
to your
doesn't make
shooting
that
range.
much noise.
Yeah, and I think that,
And I think they're looking
I
at
think
it.
Yeah.
that they actually do exist.
Yeah, I think they're looking at it.
Interesting.
Okay.
I would think, you said there would be a public hearing,
Yes,
which will probably be a good learning experience for the town board,
yes. This public hearing is set for December 12th.
December 12th. So one of the recommendations may be to, you know, revisit the whole thing after the feedback from
Yeah.
the public
Yeah, I
hearing
mean, that's
comes
the
in.
thing, I don't, we just
Yeah.
wanted to,
That's a
you know,
good
the
point.
supervisor,
There may
likes to
be
play
studies
pickleball, but
that-
here's the neighbors are complaining about this, so
Yeah.
I think he wanted to
Yeah, I
start
mean,
getting some input.
My initial reaction was we're asking them to build a really ugly thing.
Yeah, I mean, the walls are
Yeah.
ugly, but
Complicated.
they're also allowed for tennis courts, and they're taller for tennis courts because those balls are bouncing higher.
Yeah, but
But-
they're not walls that have sound,
True.
they're
True.
open,
So you,
generally chain link of some kind, which at least you could kind of see through.
Mhm.
They're not beautiful, but
Yeah.
I'm seeing this wooden box
Yeah.
in my head when I read the description.
I think that's just meant to deaden the sound because most of the sound level will probably be in the 4 feet. And the balls really don't bounce, it can bounce over, even a 4-foot fence.
Right.
They're very, almost like wiffle balls being hit. Or
Yeah,
that's-
that's
exactly what
the
it's
ball,
like.
yep.
okay, so
All right.
we need as amended with recommendations?
Sure.
Okay, motion by Craig, second by Gloria, and all in favor.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Of course, the public hearing will be held in January, right in the middle of outdoor pickleball season, in July.
Okay, I had a request from Carl Benincasa to take the Farrell application out of order. He has an emergency meeting, so let's do that.
We've done fences, and we've done pickleballs, what other substantive
So,
issues?
this is seeker, number
This is 18.
18 and 19. Anthony?
Carl Benincasa, 860 Montauk Highway,
All right,
Watermill, New York, for the applicant.
Okay, let us go through this. You can sit here if you'd like, Carl. We're gonna go, Anthony, you're gonna go through the seeker.
Thank you for your courtesy.
You're welcome. Emergency is an emergency.
Yeah, they're passing stuff down.
Anthony, this was extra, that's part of your file.
Oh, you did? You're really prepared.
Here's an interesting fact that I researched.
Anthony, once you pass that, I don't see labeled.
It's 2010.
What's that?
This is
This is 4.
Farrell, we've got two Farrell applications. Which one is this?
Yeah, for both,
They're
it's Farrell,
both.
Butter Lane, and 225 and 251.
Okay.
I'll explain, so we're in one, it's the subdivision that creates the 3 lots, and then the subsequent development of those 3 lots with the mini storage.
Okay.
So Anthony, you wanna go through seeker now?
Yeah, so I just want to remind the board here, Butter Lane involves 2 properties. The property right here, and then the one to the north, you can see the property's been significantly disturbed. This is in an industrial area, everyone's familiar with the property at this point, LI 40 zone, surrounded by mostly industrial land uses in this area. And then you start getting into residential to the north. Just by way of history, the property in this area, and actually even further to the north, have been zoned industrial since 1957. They were under G industrial at the time, then were changed to industrial in the 70s, and then LI 40, light industrial 40 in the 80s. So it's been consistently.
Overlays on the property?
The
Ag overlay.
It's ag overlay.
Yeah, it's in the ag overlay.
This was farmed.
At one point, yeah, sure. I mean, that whole area was farmed, as you can see.
Mr. Mackey.
Just let me put up real quick.
Wrong button.
So just the board, so this is Butter Lane, and then this would be the 2 properties combined, 3 lots. 1 lot here, 1 lot in the back by Flag Strip, 1 over here. This one had to go to the zoning board, just a reminder. for a lot width variance back here, and they created a 10-foot wide flag strip as opposed to the 20-foot wide, but this will be a common access point, actually, so there'll be an easement on each side to make sure it's the proper width, but it's going to be one access point, and then all 3 lots interconnected.
And they're not merging?
What's
These
that?
lots are not merging, these properties?
No, they are not. And then just,
There was a plan for a 4-lot subdivision, that was revised.
and then just real quick,
And we actually had to get a revised variance for that.
I sent you back for that, right?
You did send me back for that, yes.
It's hard to see here, my apologies, but this actually, it's reversed, this is Butter Lane. And then you'll see the one lot over here would have a building, the flag lot to the back has a building, and then 2 other buildings on the 3rd lot in the front here. The total square footage of the project is
4.7 acres, right?
4.7 acre property. We're looking at a total of 158,700 square feet of self-storage facility, 92 parking spaces, and roughly 2,500 square feet of outdoor storage. As you know, these facilities a lot of times have vehicles that get stored there or boats. So what we try to do is have areas designated for them, so we know where they are on the property, so we're not spreading them out. And so they limited, I believe, to 2 areas.
So each of those buildings will be storage, self-storage?
All of them are self-storage. And so if you look at the paper here, the first part is the part 2. And then behind that, you'll see that I have the narrative. So I'll use the narrative because it's consistent with the part 2, and if you have any changes or something you want to discuss, we'll go through it. So in the narrative in the back, the impacts on land. So we note that this is in the Ag Overlay District. It contains prime agricultural soils. I do note on the part 2 that there would be impacts, I say small, moderate impacts as really a result of impacts to land. 2 primary reasons. Number one, the property has been significantly altered already, well over an acre of land. And as a result of the project, you're talking about 158,000 square foot, all the associated parking. So obviously, there will be a significant change to the land pattern there as a result of all the developments. So we have to acknowledge that there would be an impact on land. But as I said, for the purposes of secret, the question is, would potential significant environmental impact. First, this is going to be subject to a speed use permit under the New York State DEC, which is going to require the preparation of a SWIP to be reviewed and ultimately approved by the town engineer to ensure that all stormwater is being retained on site before, during, and after construction, then to eliminate any potential sources of flooding as a result of the project. The other side of it is, as far as I'm concerned, in my opinion, the mitigating factor is this, notwithstanding the fact that it is ag overlay and contains prime ag soils, per the comprehensive plan, this property's been continuously zoned as industrial since 1957. So,
That seems
so it
somewhat
seems like that was the plan for this
oxymoronic.
property. So, to the extent that there would be impacts, I say they're small to moderate, but maybe the board has a different opinion about that one.
I would like to address that, Anthony, as I've mentioned to you before, particularly in impact on land D, E, and F, that you've listed as small impact, I believe, are moderate to large. D is the excavation and removal of more than 1,000 tons of natural material. And the estimated weight of 1 acre of soil is 2,000 pounds or 1 ton. So this is 4.7 acres, so that's quite up there.
Okay.
And then that this construction is going to be more than 1 year in multiple phases, but definitely more than 1 year.
Okay.
And the proposed project is going to result in increased erosion. It already has. Because there's a swale that comes through there, and there's major flooding that comes down Butter Lane. The property to the south of that had to put in excessive drainage, even by the road, to handle that. So those, to me, are moderate to large impacts,
Okay.
and should be expressed as such. Carl, I think that you know that there are mountains, maybe 20 feet high, of soil that are there. Now, whether that's been taken off the top and just stored there, but it's been there for like 2 years, 2.5, 3 years. And so this property has to be in some way remediated back to what the integrity of what it had. It's just been stripped bare. And then that other piece, can we look at the aerial?
Sure.
What's going on in that parcel which you're going to develop is, it's like a construction site. I mean, they're chopping stone, they have septic tanks. It's just an abusive use of that land. So I think that those, Anthony, are to me, they are moderate to large. I don't know
Okay.
how anybody else feels, but this has been going on a long time.
Yeah, I guess I'm having a real hard time. I agree with what you're saying, but if the property is zoned industrial, but that says to me by definition, you're gonna destroy the ag soil. And maybe that, I'm not correct in saying that, but it seems you can't protect the soil if you're gonna build industrial buildings on it.
I understand. Yeah, so I think what I tried to do, at least with the secrets, to the extent that the planning board's acknowledging, the conditions, or the features of the site, it is in the ag overlay district, and makes it a type 1 action. So I think we do have to address it. That's why I think you're right, with the understanding that the planning board acknowledges that site disturbance has occurred. It could alter the drainage patterns and flood patterns. And then to Gloria's point, I think the mitigating circumstances is that notwithstanding that the property is zoned industrial, has been continuously zoned industrial, so the anticipation ultimately would be that the soils are not going to be used for farming purposes.
But that notwithstanding, you can still meet the thresholds as the chairwoman is presenting.
Right.
No
Yeah.
secret
The
ones.
threshold is moderate to large.
Yeah, I would make a comment about 8, impact on agricultural resources in the same way. So you have this in the ag overlay district, so item D, more than 2.5 acres if located in an agricultural district will be irreversibly converted agricultural land to non-agricultural. And so that should be a yes, moderate to large.
Okay.
And then consideration of F and G. F, proposed action may result directly or indirectly in increased development potential or pressure on farmland, because you're looking at ag overlay district and a precedent setting to irreversibly convert that land. The item G, proposed project is not consistent with the adopted municipal farmland protection plan. We're not protecting that land in the ag overlay district. There's an inconsistency there as well.
I understand. With the understanding that to that point, the farmland protection, the comprehensive plan and subsequent zoning, if that's the case, should be updated then to reflect that, if that's the actual.
And I'm just gonna, I have to distinguish, and I'm gonna jump on this in 2 seconds. I'm just gonna distinguish Jackie's point on the land moving as opposed to the agricultural use issue, that is more usurped by the zoning, having been consistently kept that way. I appreciate what you're saying, and it's all true, but the zoning kind of, because it's consistent and still, and it hasn't been an abandoned use, it still overrides that. And that's a separate issue from the land disturbance, which is outside the agricultural use
Right.
question
Right.
or anything.
So I also have a question about, in terms of the assumption or the assessment that you're making about the use of the soils, right? Has that been referred to Ag Advisory, or is there any study from Cornell Cooperative who does soil testing and, rebuilding soil health on whether a site like this would return to agricultural production ever? I just think like there's a layperson's analysis of that, and then there's a scientific analysis of it, and I think in terms of secret, it's important that we
Right.
verify that
I mean,
statement.
and to follow up on Kate's point, this was prime ag soils when this was
Right.
being farmed, and that's like best soil in the state, you know that, Bridgehampton loam.
Right.
So are those mountains that are there Bridgehampton loam, or did they take everything off the top and sell it? I mean, what is the condition? We don't really know that.
Wasn't that Martyrs?
No, Martyrs is on the other side.
Oh,
of the-
okay.
Yeah, Martyrs is to on the other side, which Claire and I worked on for years.
Yeah.
So, also on number 5E, the proposed project may change floodwater flows that contribute to flooding. Yes, moderate to large.
But are we not containing all the stormwater inside as part
Yeah,
of the site plan application or
You're gonna have
process?
to do that with
Well, they're
your
going to
SWIFT.
have to,
There's a switch.
Yeah, I know. So,
You have to maintain all your,
so I don't
but
see.
the
how-
evaluation of the application, I mean, let's get a clear picture here of what this property is. And there are some of these that are moderate to large impacts,
Okay.
not small to moderate.
So that's the ones pertaining to, as I hear the board here, the land, the agriculture, and the flooding.
And the flooding.
Those are the three.
Right.
All right, let's continue then, I'll
Well, let me,
continue.
can I just, as opposed to the agricultural use, I think secret was, as far as the application of this process, would have been appropriate when they considered the zoning on this parcel. That decision's been done, so I don't think the use of this as something other than agricultural is necessarily part of this secret analysis.
That's what I said before.
That's, I'm just
Yeah,
reiterating what you
no,
said.
that's-
You knew I was gonna say.
I was trying to keep you from saying it, so you'd have to hear it twice.
But there is the issue of where are the ag soils? It was a farm,
So
I mean-
you were looking for the makeup
with a
of.
farm building.
The current composition of the soils
What is
that are
this?
there.
You know, what are those mountains?
The mounds, you wanna know, is that made up of Bridgehampton loam?
Was that excavated from the site
I can ask that
and be
question.
returned to the site?
I believe so, yes.
Or put somewhere that
Is it
actually
meant
could
for
be
grading?
used.
Yes,
Yeah,
understood.
yeah. Okay,
So
Anthony.
then
I mean, I
we're
think your
continuing with the
summary, I
narrative.
think your summary is accurate, but it needs to reflect those impacts.
Of course. So on the land, on the impact on land, I'm gonna change that to the large, to moderate to large, and then noted here. The next one says impact on geological features. This site doesn't contain any unusual landforms, pretty flat farmland. Impacts on surface water, again, subject property is not located within close proximity to surface waters that would be impacted by the development. Impact on groundwater, I do, again, noting that there is significant coverage and everything else, the ultimate question then, number one is, this is not an intense use, so sanitary wastewater flow, wastewater usage such is going to be minimal, water usage is going to be minimal, so the impacts on the groundwater
Right.
would be minimal. The other side is, the site plan, because it is over 50 parking spaces, the interior does have landscaping within the parking lot. So, to the extent that we could get some filtration through, some natural vegetation, I think helps. Impact on flooding, again, I think Jackie and the board made some comments about changing from moderate to large. Again, the ultimate, at the end of the day, this is going to be subject to the Speedies permit, the SWIP plan that's going to be reviewed by an engineer. So, again, flooding issues should be addressed through the SWIP process.
And the Speedies permit now are hay bales?
Oh, there's a whole, they asked for a whole
Yeah.
erosion
Didn't you
control
recommend
set of.
something in addition to that, Dennis? Didn't you say something about marking? Because when people are constructing, you know,
That marking the.
there's a
The
violation.
limit of
that was in,
disturbance,
that was
but
in
that
the,
was something
the APOD.
Yeah.
Yeah, the limit of
That
disturbance
came in
with the
with
orange
bridge
fence.
fields.
Yeah.
Okay.
The
vineyard
SWIP,
vines.
the SWIP covers everything from construction, you know, making sure you don't get even silt off-site, or minimizing silt coming
Yeah.
off-site
Okay,
by
good. That's
having a
important
construction
too.
entrance and, you know, in fact, a lot of time they go overboard with the silt fence and hay bales, putting in, I've seen it so often put up on, you know, higher areas than you, you know, so it's really a waste of,
Right.
they go overboard by just encircling the entire site, which often is not necessary.
You know, also, we know from here, as the town's trying to do their climate action change plan. We try to, and I always put, the planning board always encourages, and we do have interior landscaping. We'll see what comes out of engineering review, but planning board always encourages the use of green infrastructure where you can to capture the water. Makes the parking lot look nicer. And,
And this would be an ideal site really to go with low impact development drainage issue, because you're not, you know, it's not a heavy intensive use where you're gonna have patrons circling everything else, where you could in fact design your landscape areas to accept stormwater and drainage where it filters out before it even hits the drainage pool. And, you know, this is where we need to start, not just suggesting, but actually mandating that they do this. Because I've been suggesting this for 20 years when I was
I
town
know.
engineer. Yeah, we've done very little, you know, real thing other than put in a drainage and have it go down to groundwater.
But this is sort of like filtering through gravel to have it like a water.
Well, no, you can.
No, so what you could do, and you see it, for example, at the post office on North Sea Road, where they've done, that was a very small impact, where I did that, so when we did even, what's the parish?
Parish Art.
Parish
Parish
Art
Art
Museum.
Museum.
So we had
Yeah.
that big, all the drainage was brought to the front, but
Yeah.
the pools
And
were
they-
set like
and they
3
have-
feet, 2
they
feet
have
above
all
the
kinds
swales,
of
so water
swales.
comes in, filters out naturally through the soil, and when it gets to a certain level, then it goes into the drainage pools and goes into groundwater.
Okay.
So we can do that, you
We
can
can
do
do
that with
that
every section of landscaping that you have, and it's, well, not every, but you know, a lot of areas you can do
Yeah.
that, where you channel the water towards your landscape areas and have a pool that's set up at a certain height above it, so, you know, most of the rainfall that falls doesn't really need to go into the groundwater, it can filter naturally through the landscaping and the soil before it needs that. And use the stormwater drain elevation as a relief to really get it into groundwater when it gets, when you have a lot of rain.
So we'll look at the
So
landscaping plans for
Yeah.
this.
And those,
And
And make
the other
sure
side of
that-
it is, once we get to a completeness, this is good, then Tom can start chiming in, you know, the
Right.
engineering side to see what we can incorporate. The next one's impacts on air, just so I put in here, the town actually has a definition of self-storage facility, which includes basically the dead storage of customers' goods and services and goods and wares. So thus, the storage of any chemicals, flammable, liquids, combustible materials, and toxic substances is prohibited, so there shouldn't be anything that would create problems there.
And dead storage is like, you can't put your python in
I
there
would
or
hope that
something.
would be the case. Just wondering why you went with a python.
My sister actually was an animal control officer and rescued one from a
Oh, really?
self-storage facility. Anyway,
Nothing
sidebar.
should shock anybody anymore. Impacts on plants and animals, again, this property, notwithstanding that it's been disturbed, the soil's been disturbed, but the whole area is devoid of natural vegetation, so there will be no impacts on plants and animals. Maybe the landscaping of the site would help, actually. Impact on agricultural resources, which we just spoke of, so I think the board wanted to go from
That's the other side, yeah. it's-
moderate to large impacts.
That site is.
With the understanding that this project then would result in the loss of Primax soils, I think to Kate's point, she was asking about, you know, about the issue of how farmland gets reclaimed. You know, we've looked at that before, actually, on the distillery we did in Sagaponic, actually, that they had to spend a couple of years growing rye for the soils to be properly reclaimed, so I'm assuming that there's a whole bunch of agricultural information how to reclaim soils. But we will acknowledge the large impacts that Jackie said in here.
And I mean, to Jackie's point about what is in those piles, I mean, if that is prime soil and it can be reused somewhere, it's obviously not going to be used on the property.
They may need it for grading.
Well,
That's what they should be doing. They shouldn't be removing it.
Yeah,
yeah,
because that's one of the thresholds, removing a certain amount of soil.
This was in the nematode area too, where you weren't able to.
The
remove-
martyrs was nematode, so
Yeah.
is this nematode?
It's in that overlay. I don't know if that's still in effect now.
I don't know
Yeah.
if it's still in effect, it's not overlay, but I'm sure that.
It was
It was.
10 years ago.
With Martyrs. The Martyrs site was nematode.
Yeah, no, then this would
And they had to
definitely
put
be.
in grates to wash the tires before it came
Yeah.
out.
But I don't think that's still in effect.
I don't know if that's, you think it's still
I
not in
don't know,
effect?
I don't think so. I'm not sure.
George said.
Claire, do you remember the nematode in the Martyrs?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was noted at one point.
It was in that, and you just.
You saw it, what, did it say the nematode in there? Okay.
You wanna pull
Maybe
it
that's
up
why
again?
it's stockpiled.
So, no, so it was in
It
there.
said golden
I saw it
nematode.
before. So we acknowledges this, property.
That's probably why it's stockpiled. Can't really haul it off.
I don't know.
But we'll note that, we should note that in here.
Yes, note it.
Well, yeah, like during construction, then,
Yeah.
is that if that comes off property to other ag soils in the district, that's really a big impact.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we'll have to note that on here in accordance with the requirements, the proper requirements. Impact on aesthetic resources, again, this is LI 40 zone, so the use is consistent with the other industrial uses in the area. Impact on historic and archaeological resources, phase 1A and 1B was actually done on this property as required, and they didn't find anything.
When was it done?
2020. There had been a house on this property, but it's been demoed.
Yeah.
And that was
I
a very
acknowledge
old-
that in there was an old house.
Old
but,
farmhouse, yeah.
it's noted in there, but there was no other historic or archaeological resources. Open space and recreation, the property's not slated to be used for recreational purposes. Impact on critical environmental areas, this is not a designated critical environmental area. Impact on transportation, these uses don't generate a lot of employees, a lot of parking demand or traffic as a general rule of thumb, so we don't anticipate any traffic impacts. Impact on energy, again, we do note that buildings of that size have energy needs. That being said, part of what I've been reading about these self-storage facilities, these new climate-controlled systems that they're using, LEED certification
Absolutely.
buildings, solar might be a good,
Good use of
because
solar.
it doesn't require a lot, it doesn't generate a lot of it, so, so those types of things. So there will be some energy impacts that I think would be properly mitigated with, some of the building and design requirements that we would normally incorporate. Again, impact on noise, odor, and light, as I said before. Lighting has to comply with the requirements of the town code, and there's no storage of any chemicals, flammable liquids, combustible materials, or toxic substances. That will be strictly prohibited. Impact on human health, again, it's a mini storage, self-storage facility, so we wouldn't expose the community to any dangerous contaminants. Consistency with community plans, again, it's not specifically stated this property in the comp plan, but to the extent that the property's been consistently zoned as industrial, I think that it's consistent.
Yeah. I mean, I guess self-storage is probably a less intrusive use than potentially some other.
Well, the other side of the good thing is this is a special exceptions, so you have to go through the standards when we get to that point. But it's not like they could just take this 158,000 square feet of building space and turn it into a special trade contract that they have to come back to planning. And that would be a whole different evaluation at that point.
So I just had a question about the boat storage that they're going to have. So are those, fuel from those boats are drained before they're hauled, or how?
Yeah, they don't store boats that are fueled. No, those are usually they're winterized at that point and then stored.
Okay,
So
so,
the oils would be gone, fuels would be gone,
and then brought to you?
and then brought, yeah.
And those will be conditions of site plan approval.
Okay.
by the way. They would be incorporated. Consistency with community character, again, it is an industrial zone, and those are the uses around it for such a property. So I think that would be consistent. So what I was recommending, I guess with the changes that the board is recommending ultimately to issue a negative declaration.
Couple questions. Prohibiting storage of chemicals, flammable goods, enforceable by whom? Where's the oversight? Who enforces it?
Going to, well, our code enforcement, obviously. We have a fire marshal that
Right.
reviews plans. There are fire, so they look at the mini storage requirements too. They're gonna have their own conditions, and I have to imagine that there are state building code requirements also.
And federal, too.
What's that?
It's gonna be hard to enforce.
Oh, sure.
I understand, you know, but we can only work with the regulations, you know, that we have to work with.
Yeah,
And
but this-
technically speaking, none of this is supposed to be stored in those
There's
buildings.
fire suppression throughout the entire building.
There will be.
And regarding boats, you mentioned no fuel, no batteries either. Batteries are flammable.
Okay.
Carl, is this gated and secured, or is it a self-access, keypad?
I don't know exactly
access,
how they're preparing access. There's not like an entry gate. I mean, a manned entry gate, so I
Right.
would assume there'd be
So
self-access.
there's
All
not a
these places-
security guard there
Most of the
24/7?
places-
Not
All
that
of
I'm
these places
aware
are
of.
now.
Yeah, you
all
just
of these
punch
places
in
are.
your
You
code.
punch in your code, like
Yeah.
life storage on the highway
Yeah.
here.
But usually there's a person.
In the office.
In the
but
office,
only
might
but
be
during
not
someone
daytime
in the
hours.
office.
yeah.
Only
You
during
can get
daytime
in and out
hours.
without seeing a person, though.
Is there no person, there's no accommodation for a person here?
I don't believe there's not like a guard stand. There could be an office in there.
I'm sure there's an office.
Is there an office?
They
Yeah.
usually have one small office
There'll be an
Yeah.
office.
with a restroom.
I don't see it on the,
Right.
There's an office.
does that say office or?
Yes.
Okay.
And those are the buffers in the front?
Yes, transition yard setbacks. Believe it or not, they're subject to transition.
Because this is gonna end up being a lot of storage, a lot of, it's a big development. There'll be a
Sure.
lot of people coming in and out. I know not seriously impacting traffic on an individual
Not at the same, not at the
basis,
same time.
but the number of,
There's a
sites.
lot of
that'll-
units there.
Right, a lot of units, right.
It's a good place for street trees.
Do
Absolutely.
we
Oh,
know?
of course, that would be
Do
incorporated.
we know how many units that there will be?
In each building, Carl? All those, each one of those little squares is,
Yeah. We do have a number. Is
It's
it on
one
the
level,
site plan?
yeah.
I don't have the site plan in front of me.
Yeah, I don't, it's in there, so I have floor plans that show all the units.
Okay.
So,
Well,
I'll
when you
get that
can't,
in.
when you can't sleep, you could count them.
And how many
The number
sto-
should be totaled for me somewhere.
How many stories to the building? Two? So,
Two
and
stories.
units on both levels, right?
Both stores.
And with an elevator.
With an elevator, yeah.
Yeah.
You can't, with storage, you can't. Yeah.
All four of these are new buildings?
Yes.
Brand new buildings.
okay.
I mean, I would like to see this being built as environmentally green
There's plenty of opportunity for it, and
Yeah.
there's plenty of
for good insulation to.
willingness on the applicant side, so I don't think that
Is
would be
there?
a problem. Sure.
Is the
Any-
application complete then?
No, so,
No.
so this is another one of those conundrums. They can't get their health department
Oh,
approval for the
okay.
subdivision without
Yeah.
secret, so.
Chicken and egg.
So we need to
Comes up
vote on the
all-
secret.
Yep.
Okay, so neg deck,
Motion.
motion by Dennis,
Second.
second by Gloria, and all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor.
Thank you very much for
Thanks,
your
Carl.
courtesy.
Take our comments back to
Stay
the
well.
applicant.
I will.
Okay, let's go back to the beginning. Claire, you want to do 157 Montauk Highway?
We could close the regular session. Yeah.
Yes, so we're closing the regular session to go into a work session with 157 West Montauk Highway.
So this is the site that is, the address you just read off. It is the former Hampton Bays Diner site, at the corner of Montauk Highway and State Road 24.
Thank you.
Oh, good, even better plans.
Yeah.
Great.
We have a few, or we should share? No, I have enough.
So when we received this application for pre-submission, you scheduled that pre-submission conference coming up, I think January, I forget.
December 14th.
December 14th? Great. Okay, and then you said you wanted a work session just to talk about it, because it's a very visible site. And is considered and talked about as the gateway to Hampton Bays. And so I think you want to make some comments or give some feedback to the applicants. They're proposing to demolish the existing building and construct 2 buildings. One in the front to use for medical office and the rear for a regular office. Is that correct?
Office and storage.
Okay.
What's the rear building?
There's the
Office.
intersection here, right?
Just
Office
regular
and
office.
storage, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So the proposed uses, so,
So we determined that that diner building was 70-some-odd years old?
it is actually
Yeah.
about 80 years old, and so a referral to landmarks would probably be appropriate.
Substantially altered though.
Yeah, pretty
It
iconic
is
building.
essentially-
It was. What's there now is not like,
Yeah.
it's a mess. The big factor in this site is, as you know, we've obtained easements along the railroad track. The overall plan, I think, is to extend Good Ground Road
To the-
into this site. And we need to establish this straight thoroughfare to get to that future Good Ground Road. At some point, there'll probably be a signal similar to Popog Avenue. They need one now, they needed one 10 years ago, but I think that's the overall plan in Hampton Bays. So, with that in mind, I think, does your site provide accommodations for that?
No.
Okay.
And then just identify yourselves to the record for the 3 people who are at the table.
Sure, I'm Alex Badalamenti with BLD Architects. This is Phil Giordano from my office, and this is Matt Alward from R&M Engineering.
R&M Engineering, Matt Edward.
Okay, great.
So, Christine, what's our abilities under the cross-access provision? Is a plan in place? We typically secure cross-access between the sites. So as long as there's a plan, it's my understanding, there is an adopted plan in place, and we're going to need that, that offer of cross-access, public
It'll be a
access.
condition of
In the-
approval.
That would be the condition of
Yeah.
approval.
Okay, in the southeast corner of the property, there is, behind the back building, there
Right.
is a space identified for cross-access
But we're going
To
to
the
need
east.
it out to Montauk Highway.
through the entire site,
Through the front, the
Okay.
corridor.
which I think could be discussed.
To line up with the traffic lights almost, right?
Yeah,
At 24?
That's been
Yeah.
adopted?
the plan has been adopted, yes.
Has been adopted.
Has been
Yeah.
adopted.
We have
The Hampton Bays
some
Hamlet.
generous covenants, I can give you a sample of what they look like. Generally speaking, if you don't have a next door neighbor that's developing or can use it, you have a future cross-access easement, so that should they ever come in and need it, you will agree to it. So it's something we kind of routinely do, it's not uncommon.
Right, so we have a 24-foot cross-access, potential future cross-access agreement
Yeah.
with the neighbor to the east.
We need
Are
it
we talking
to-
about 2, one east-west and one north-south?
Yeah. This is the last piece of the puzzle.
Right, that's been in the
So
comp
long
plan.
term.
That's been in the comp plan
There's a road coming through.
for
straight
over a decade.
Circle here. This is the good ground
What was that?
extension.
You're talking about a road.
So it would only,
Is that what we're talking about, a full width road coming through here?
I would think so.
that's been in the town comprehensive plan since 2005,
Right, and
to
what's it-
connect this through the diner property, if you will, to Good Ground Road, which is just south.
Right,
Um,
and that was.
It's been a topic of controversy.
Mhm.
So I don't know that any of us can give you the latest on
Wasn't
where
that-
that's going.
Wasn't that
but-
vetted already?
Did you
Yeah, there
know
were-
about this before you
well-
bought, you bought this property? right?
Our client's here, he can speak to that. I mean, there were conversations with the supervisor and with planning about the future road at one point, and we were
Right.
looking at a land swap, which was decided not to happen. So I don't even know how to respond to a potential road coming through, when that's gonna happen.
It may not.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
May
Right,
not.
so it would be probably a future cost, like, should there be a time when it does, but that's not a, I think we need to have a discussion about
Yeah,
this
I think
further.
Yeah.
it goes.
Well, the
beyond
whole
that.
idea is to set the site plan so that
different
if and
Right.
when,
And
if and
it's
when we
different
need
than
that
cross-access.
access, it's not running through a building,
Right.
you know,
Well, I guess it depends on the size of the road and what the plan
Right.
is.
There's,
Because I-
there's a distinction between a cross-access easement and
Yeah.
A
a
road.
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 Yes. So
Right.
we need
I mean,
to
yeah.
talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's an important discussion point.
But let's,
Are you the applicant?
Yes.
Oh,
look, what,
well,
do you
that's
want to
okay.
come up to the table? Did you
just-
give us all your names? Did you give us your names?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Augie.
Oli?
Augie. Augie.
Is that
Your full name?
Augustino Vona.
Okay.
Well,
So just to give a little background, obviously when we purchased this property back in 2017, the diner, correct me if I'm wrong, was already closed.
Yeah.
And since then, we've been trying to work with the town in reference to developing the property. We had discussed with Janice and the team up there in reference to the road and trying to work something with the land swap because they were very interested in building the road.
Right.
However, through years of working with them and them trying to redevelop the downtown, according to them, they said that has passed, and we're no longer pursuing that. Then we worked with the town in trying to build and get an overlay and trying to work with them to get a variance in building a hotel there. Again, because the road was the road, for lack of a better term, dead. So I'm not sure about what you're talking in reference to. There's
If it's
I
dead,
defer to, the legal minds.
All right, well, that's why we're in a work session.
Yeah.
And-
Yeah.
And that's,
So
the whole
then-
purpose of this is to,
Yeah, and they
for
said,
us to
listen,
share ideas with you, you tell us what you're looking for.
Yeah, so then they said, listen, pursue other avenues in reference to, as long as it's by right, or
Yeah,
by then,
Right,
we'll move forward with your project.
right, and that's what we're working at, right?
Yeah, so we're not aware of any, again, I think that, I don't know what you were citing, ordinance or,
It's a Hampton Bays Hamlet study. Do we have a copy of this study, Claire, or?
Is Janice
Yeah,
available?
We do.
You know,
Is Janice available?
Jackie,
Why don't we just let them present
Yeah,
what
okay.
their ideas are, and then we can
Yeah,
always
okay.
discuss amongst ourselves.
It is online, the New Hampton Bay study, and
Right.
it does have the road in it.
So,
And the property owners were notified?
This is the
well,
public
we may
hearing
not be
process.
privy to
Stick
the
to
latest
what-
information,
What
so.
you're wanting to do. Why don't you just present what you would like to see done there?
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. So, putting that aside, it is, as was mentioned, this is the former diner site on the south side of Montauk Highway across from State Road 24. We're proposing two new office buildings. One is 8,900 square feet. The other second office building is around 8,000 square feet. Front office building is being proposed for medical office. We have a series of renderings we provided with you. This is a quality design building. It is consistent with your maritime maritime, I forget the name, maritime mercantile design guidelines, even though we're not in the actual overlay district, we are west of the district. But we have made sure that the building design is fairly consistent with what the town has in mind for this area. We believe it is as of right. We meet all of the setbacks, we meet the FAR, we meet the parking requirements, we meet the sanitary requirements for the site. So we wanted to present the building to you. The materials are progressive. We're using a combination of composite fiber C panels, which represent wood and metal. We have both gable and shed forms for the buildings, and we have plenty of light and storefront coming into the buildings. The parking is located on the west side of the two buildings, and we have a 50-foot buffer along Montauk Highway.
okay, did you want to say something? Okay. So, I've said this before about parking and visible parking versus displaying particularly the architectural interest of buildings. Have you at all played with the site plan here whereby you can position these buildings, which are sort of awkwardly angled, but using the buildings in the front and putting the parking in the rear?
Yeah, I mean, where is Montauk Highway?
Montauk Highway is to the north.
Lower left.
Where is it on this?
Oh,
To
Yeah.
the left.
On that view to the left.
Thank you.
To the left.
So I
Yeah, so
don't
you're
know, have
basically
you?
looking at a lot of parking.
Yeah, I
As
mean,
opposed to the
it-
buildings.
It's the gateway to Hampton Bays, which is important.
Sure.
And, you know, whether from 2017 we liked it or not, the diner was like an iconic thing that was there.
Listen, I couldn't agree with you more. It's a very, I'm sorry, it's an iconic property.
Yeah,
And we were trying to really work with the town of Repton doing something else besides office buildings.
right.
Just have,
So we're not privy to
not
those
able, yeah, we weren't able to
discussions,
get there. But we do have to work within the confines of
yeah, right.
the setbacks and those.
So your highway business, right, that's the zoning?
Yes, correct.
And so it's a 15,000 square foot limit on a building. And tell me again what we've got,
8 and 89?
8 and
So
89.
16.9
8 and,
and 89?
You're up, yep.
So 16.9
15,900.
in total.
15 is the
Okay,
minimum
so
for a
you're
single
good.
building.
Yeah,
16.
For a
single.
single building, so we have two.
right, but this is coming in as one unit.
I think
Well, it's a
it says-
campus.
It doesn't say single building. It says single or buildings in the code. I have to double check, because it's not HB, it's OD.
It says highway
Right,
business,
so-
existing zone,
Right.
Is it
highway
HB or is
business.
it OD?
We're HV.
Oh, it is.
HB. Oh, it says that on the
Yeah.
plan.
Well, then,
Highway
then it's definitely limited to 50,000 square feet.
15,000.
It
Complete.
says building or
Of
buildings.
all buildings.
Overall.
All
Building overall.
So you need a variance. Yeah,
that's a
okay,
no.
for some reason, OD's on the other side, right? So this is
Yes.
more-
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's why I
OD's to
thought.
the-
Yeah.
Directly east of there.
So, I mean,
Exactly.
so in playing around with this, have you thought about that to really play out the architecture of the buildings and put the parking in the rear?
We did think about having a
Okay.
building, the two buildings, so that you would, again, maybe approach through the middle. The problem is that the DOT has a drainage easement that runs to the recharge basin at the south end of the property. It basically cuts the road right down the middle.
Is that
Is that
true?
ER?
It's a dash, there's a dash line, if you see, right there, follow these dash lines all the way to the
All the way
back.
down?
Correct. That's a drainage
Just
manifold
orientation too, by bringing this,
for
these,
24
can't really
and
put another building.
County Road 80.
They can't put, they can't put any structures in there.
Exactly. So there's a drainage pipe that runs right through the kind of the middle of the
That's the
property.
best
Can't
thing
put
to do.
structures in there, is what they're saying.
Right. We can't modify it, and we can't put anything above
That's a
it.
county
That's
drainage?
state.
State,
There's a state basin in the back.
Because state,
They pick
There's a
up drainage,
recharge
and there's a
basin to the
recharge
south.
basin back
back
in
there,
here.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And what's the setback?
I wonder when they,
the basin?
how long that's been in.
Off the
Or off
basin,
the
Oh,
pipe?
off the pipe, we're
Probably
about
from the 60s.
20 feet from the
In the
foundation.
60s, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, whether it's even functioning, I don't know, right?
Well, it leads to the recharge basin.
Yeah,
George, do they have lifespans?
not really, they're recharge basins, so water, water makes it really from drainage basins
Picks
on
up the drainage
24
here.
From
and
there and
Montauk
goes up?
Highway, and
Send
it
it
works,
up.
there's no
You're
end
allowed
of
to
life
put
in those
parking
really.
over it, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
as
they
long as have
redid
access.
this intersection, I mean, it's been several years, but, they did rework this intersection a bit a few years ago, so I'm sure they fixed the drainage if there was a problem with it then.
Correct.
Some work was done around this area too, when they did the Stop and Shop
Right.
development, 15 years ago too.
Created that.
I think the, by you also bringing a right turn lane into the west side of the property makes it difficult to really, how do you do this where you
It's very difficult.
get traffic, through, so I
Yeah.
think it's,
It's very difficult.
the idea of having
Very
everything to the
tricky.
front and park in the back, a lot of the parking is at the back.
Complicated.
There is some parking in the
Yes.
back. I mean, I think to your earlier point, it's actually more interesting as a campus to break it up into the two buildings. And the orientation of the building is also very interesting. If you look at the geometries that are coming into this site, it's not orthogonal to the street. So we spent a lot of time looking at the positioning of the two
Mhm.
buildings and think they present themselves actually very well.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
to the
the
street.
The front building almost mirrors the orientation of the diner itself.
Correct.
Yeah, and so you put the parking there because of that drainage.
Yeah.
Correct.
as well as an additional access, a separate access, right to an access into the site,
Which is
in addition to the main one
consistent with
going
what
out.
the diner has
So
today.
this is to go out. and then-
Right, we tried
you
to
come into
match
your
what the
turn.
diner has today. And we've removed that eastbound
There's a lane
exit
turn
only that was
down,
east of the
there's
diner, in front of
lights.
the diner.
You know, mix up the asphalt, yeah.
Yeah.
The architecture looks great, though.
Do you have a tenant in mind for, you know, given that the atrium is across the way with the medical offices?
Yes, there is already a lease out there for the first building, so it is already pre-leased.
Two-lane roundabout.
For the office
Contingent,
building or the medical?
the medical.
The
office
medical.
building, correct. Second building is, no, we're hunting right now, but the first building, the north building is pre-leased.
The second building's just general office, right?
Correct, and storage.
So there's
So-
been some community comments, we don't need any more medical buildings. You know, there's a plethora of them coming up now.
Sure, we don't,
Lots of them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but,
we
you
don't
know,
control
Jackie,
the
the
marketplace.
trends,
We can't
the
control
trend
that.
seems to be that everybody's going to urgent
getting
care, and
older,
nobody has
yeah.
private, you know, primary doctors anymore.
And yet Amazon's launching its big virtual health thing.
Right.
Yeah, on the computers there.
You're not
My-
gonna reopen the diner. Public hearing
No.
My sons, when they
No.
get sick, they go
Yeah,
urgent
you'll
care, they don't
hear
have a
it.
primary doctor. They're
When
35
is
and they
it
don't have a
scheduled for
primary
public
doctor.
Exactly.
The 14th.
The 14th is the work session.
December?
December 14th?
December 14th, I thought,
Yes.
yeah, that's what the notice
What
was.
happened?
What's happening the
But
14th?
isn't that also,
Yes. The two of them are on, yeah, right?
We're having a public hearing on this one? What's happening on the 14th again?
There's also another application for Bridgehampton.
Are these both
So
one-story
should we-
should we
buildings?
bring
Just
up
high
Jarvis?
atrium type
Yes.
lobbies?
Yeah, they're double height lobbies.
Oh,
Right.
well, we're not doing a public hearing.
no, we're not doing a public hearing for this.
The
We
14th
haven't-
is a work session.
No, this is your work
This is your work session.
This
What
is
does
our
it
work
say?
session.
Yeah.
So Claire,
So, the 14th is your
Pre-submission.
pre-submission conference.
That's the word.
In
Oh,
the afternoon or the
pre-submission, okay.
evening?
Evening. Yeah.
we're gonna have two. Is that the
That's
best?
probably why we only put 2 items on.
Yeah, is that, are we restricted to that date for this, or can we move it and give it some fair in
Well, it's already-
January?
We haven't posted it, I guess, yet, but we've already sent out a referral to the CAC saying it's going to be on the
Well,
14th.
They can get
And
another
it's
notice.
on the, yeah. So, I'm sorry, why, I think 2 items is fine. I mean, I know there's, it could be controversial, but.
It is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's just
Well, I
around the
think,
holidays.
I think part of it also is that we don't know what discussions the planning department has had with the applicant or the town. So we're coming in from our point of view, but it would be helpful to know what discussions have transpired with them and the town, what they had, what they pulled. I mean,
We meet with Janice.
you know,
and-
otherwise we're operating in silos.
More
and that's-
importantly, we have an adopted plan. And if this, I'm trying to, you know, I keep harping back to the road, but if your plan is inconsistent with the adopted plan, it triggers an impact statement. So
Yeah.
you're talking about years of review now. So maybe get a hold of that plan, and if it needs to be changed, we should change it, or the site would have to accommodate.
Exactly, but that's a basic ingredient here.
That's
This
triggers
cross-
automatically.
It's more than cross-access.
Yeah, it's more than
actually
cross-access. It's
Hooking
the
up what's
whole-
gonna be an alternate highway.
Yeah, bypass for,
Into-
you know,
But what, do we know about this adopted plan?
I don't know. We're not aware there was an adopted plan.
We were never told of an adopted plan.
it's
Yeah,
online,
see,
I would think,
that's why I asked.
But I think it
for
was
that.
also identified to
I
you
understand,
that it
but
was,
this is a
they
work
weren't
session.
pursuing
I
it
mean,
any
these are-
further.
Right.
Yeah, but we
yeah,
need to
yeah,
have
but
some
they- yeah, we
information
were
by
told by
December
them they
14th.
weren't
Yeah, that's the
pursuing
problem.
this.
I think
I
it's
think
for the
that's why
public
it's
to
like
speak on
all these
December 14th.
meetings
That's the
and-
purpose of the conference,
I-
it's
I-
public.
Yeah,
Without understanding the plan that was adopted, I don't think it's fair to bring the public out without them being able to understand
Right.
what the application is, and I don't think I know either.
People will bring that up.
This is gonna change, you know? I mean, though you might post this, but this may change based on this cross-access business and some other things. So it just seems,
I thought that was the purpose of the pre-submission conference. I'm just saying that
So
these
they're
are
proposed.
issues, right? There is a comp
No,
plan.
but I
that
think
you got.
this-
I'm gonna write you a pre-hearing notes. and
Yeah, but I
here's the
think that
comp
we
plan.
need a bit more time. This is a big
No, so what
undertaking.
they're saying.
I think we need some more time to work it and come
That-
together.
that's
I
completely
want
up
to
to
hear
you.
what
But it seems
the
as though they
town
wanted
board
to
and
bring
planning
that in.
Yeah, what did they
staff
say?
said.
Oh, I don't think the town board met
No.
with the
Did
applicant.
you, you said you met with the town, but you met the planning
Not the town
department?
board.
Not the board.
Not the town board.
You met with planning,
We did meet.
you met with
Long
Janice
range,
Yeah.
and
Jay.
long range?
Yeah.
Well, to your point, Jackie, you know, we have another controversial item on the agenda, the evening of December 14th. So in order to give fair attention to this matter, which will also probably elicit some public feedback that evening, could we just move it to January?
I
And,
would
have time
say-
to do that.
And then you could
Let's-
just
You have time to
renotice the
reschedule it.
CIC.
I would say
That way
reschedule
we
to
could
January.
just focus on,
We're kind of under time, can we move the other?
Is it?
Yeah.
It gives us a little bit more time. I
Any
mean, maybe we could do
controversial
another
ones on the
work
25th?
session. We don't have to finish all of this in one work session.
Do you wanna get it all out in one night though, maybe?
No, no.
but I think it's also useful to have Janice in the room so that we
Yes.
can, you know, you've had certain conversations, but she's not here, so let's
Yeah.
get together and really get everything, you know, come
Maybe-
to a term of understanding.
Maybe we could do, Claire, is the agenda heavy on the 14th or not?
December 14th
Yeah.
agenda on the day or the night?
Day,
I'm going to say it's going to be heavy.
it's gonna
Tends
be
to be heavy
heavy,
right before
okay.
the-
It's a
Because I think it
double
would,
meeting.
would be great to do another work session with them, with Janice here, to bring us up to date about what's been discussed, what hasn't been discussed, so
And with the
that we're
Hampton
not.
Bays
Yeah, the
plan.
Hampton Bays plan. I mean, I do know the plan at one point that there was some discussion about it being a welcome center, probably before you were involved, yeah.
I think so.
That it would be a welcome center and that people could walk and this road could hook in, then they would be walking along Main Street.
We've had these discussions with the town, they gave up on those plans.
They did,
Yeah,
they did, they
Yes.
gave up on those
yes,
plans.
we met with Janice.
Yeah, which is too bad.
We can
I-
make that all part of the
We've been trying to work with the
report.
town for the last 4 years and getting something there for the
Something.
opening of the town and getting in
Yeah.
there. From things that you discussed, from them moving it over and trading land, buying land, putting a hotel there.
Mhm.
And it's all just led to 5 years of waiting.
Yeah.
And as
yeah.
owner of the property, it's, you know, we don't, you know,
Yeah.
That's
I
government.
don't, you know, I know we need offices, I mean, you know, medical offices and stuff like that, but this is what we're left with. And I
Yeah.
understand that they wanna put a road there, but if we have a proposal and the town wants a road, you can't hold a property from being developed and leaving a
No.
decrepit
No.
building for a 20-year-old,
Right.
you know, and wait 20 years. I'm willing
Yeah, I
to
mean-
do it if we can move, and that's why we tried to work with the town and get some
Yeah.
property next door to keep that hope alive, because we all wanted to lead to be able to get to downtown
Right.
quicker and et cetera,
Yeah.
but.
These are all things that we'll raise in our report to you once this is completed. I think you just have to focus on when you want to hear this, if you don't want to hear it on the 14th.
I think we
When?
would like to work on it a little bit more and have a session with Janice.
Yeah, I
In
feel.
a work
that-
session.
I
Yeah.
feel uncomfortable. that
Otherwise,
you've
we're
had a
working in
conversation
silos.
and we
Okay,
haven't.
but for
With-
purposes of just scheduling, would you,
What's in January?
January 25th?
The 11th is not available, that's full.
Okay,
The 25th is available, and it's got 2 other items on the agenda.
okay, but we could do January 25th, we could have a work session before then.
On the 11th?
On the
If you want to
11th.
request Janice on the
Please,
11th?
yes.
Oh, then we'll discuss it
Would you
with
do
her,
that?
so-
Yeah, you'd come to a work session again?
The 11th?
No.
That would be the 11th, work session, the
all don't have
11th,
to
similar,
come.
similar
Similar
format
to
to Janice.
to work
with
out,
Janice.
yeah.
We have a signed lease.
You have a contract with MD?
Yeah, I feel
We
there's.
have a contract with MD and time, we have time.
I'm sorry, you have to come up,
I'm
we
sorry.
we can't hear you
I'm sorry.
otherwise.
My
Give
name
us-
is Joe Vaughn, I'm also an owner of the property.
Okay.
We have, like you had mentioned, we have an executed lease, which
Mhm.
has time frames. So that's what we were, that's a factor for us as well.
Right, yeah.
And just to also supplement what Augustina was saying before, in our discussions with Janice and also Jay Schneiderman, the supervisor, at some point I said, listen, if you guys need to pursue an as-of-right use, you need to do that. And that's what we did.
So this is your as of right,
That's,
to move the the ball down the road. I get it.
That's what we did.
Okay.
Well, our board, I mean, we review the application in front of us. At your public hearing, you know, the public will come in and probably say, we'd love the diner to stay. And,
course.
you know, and I understand, you know, Hampton Bays is going through an awful lot of change. And some of their beloved buildings and structures are going away, you know, and this is one of them. So there's gonna be emotion. But from our board standpoint, it's your application, and we're listening to, and weigh the merits of your application, not what we thought it should be.
And in order to weigh the merits of that application, we have to be brought up to speed on 5 years of conversations that you've had. Unfortunately, you've had to endure those without the, you know, the benefit of our involvement and being at the same stage as you are. But in order to make a sound decision, it's important for us to have Janice in the room to bring us up to speed exactly where the dominoes have fallen and what we are considering at this point in that context.
And since purchasing in 17, we've explored all of those ad nauseum at times. And we've ended up here.
Tell me, during those discussions, has this link up to the Cross
Yes.
Road?
Oh,
That's
yes.
been discussed?
Oh, yes, and we worked, when we were dealing with the hotel development, we worked with Janice and Jay, because you guys own land to the left of the property, which I believe is in the.
To the east.
To the east, that's
To the
also,
east.
let's,
To the east, which I believe is parkland.
Yes.
Okay? And we talked about doing a land swap, moving over so you could have the possibility of this future road, which
Right.
has been talked about for
Ever.
longer than all of us. We worked for a year on that alone. We dealt with the state senator to try to get, because, yeah, it had to be approved by New York State, the assembly up there.
Because of
Because it was
alienation of parkland.
Exactly. So we worked on that, and then after the issue.
And what happened?
When the issue, when the town had the issue with the downtown and they were
Oh, yeah,
sued,
yeah.
and they lost, we were advised, okay, no more road, let's do hotel smack dab in the middle. And we pursued that for a year. And then that was going nowhere, and we just kept saying, we've had this for 6 years, we want to develop for the town. But we have homes in Hampton Bays. Well, that's why we bought this property. And then we told them, and then at some point they said, listen, guys, if you have to pursue an as-of-right use, do it. And
Yeah,
we.
I'm sorry you had to go through all
Yeah,
that.
so it's been a while, but hey, it's good, we're here, we think it's a
I'm almost
beautiful.
sorry that we're here. I'd rather
It's an
not.
option, it's
Rather
a great
use the-
option.
What?
I'm almost sorry that we're here for this. I wish
Yeah.
we would have been
You
able
know?
to develop the other thing, you know what I mean? Because,
Yeah.
you know, again, it goes back to, like you said, the entrance of Hampton Bays.
You wanted to do a hotel.
Yes.
And it
As a
wasn't-
matter of fact, the hotel was brought to us, and we said, great idea.
And who sort of frowned on that?
I think it
I don't know who frowned on it, it was just, there was no movement. We've been working with Jay and Janice, and it just didn't go anywhere, and we
Well,
just.
you know what, it becomes, I think it was more of, it becomes, it's not as of right, and it's a variance.
Right.
And then the voices of the town, who wants the diner, who wants this, I don't want a
Well, you
hotel,
also-
I want a diner, I don't want a diner, I want this.
Yeah.
I want it to be parkland, and it's unfortunate in
required-
today's.
Those
Well,
same-
because of the internet, now those voices are louder, and unfortunately, no one
those-
wants,
those-
if it's 60-40, it's difficult for,
Right.
when you get to
But
Schneiderman, and
those
when you're in that
same-
position to make that
Those
decision.
same concerns will come with this as
Yeah,
well.
absolutely.
But by
Any
those,
project.
but that development required a change of zoning and, or creation of an overlay district, which created other, which, by the way, that's why we were working for so long, to try to get that
Yeah.
Try to
accomplished.
get it done.
Just didn't work out.
Didn't happen.
And
Right.
that's where it was, okay, we have to stop looking at that building that we're all looking at and try to make the property, develop it with an as-of-right use, and that's why we're here.
Well,
I mean, we were
we
working
are
for Janice for
We are
so
the
long.
planning board, planning. So it's important for us to understand. I really appreciate, I'm sorry you had to go through 5 years of that, but.
No, Janice has helped us and try to get that done, and
Yeah.
Schneiderman and them. It's just, you know,
Yeah.
unfortunately kept on hitting. Every time we got through this wall, there was another wall. And I'm sure you've dealt with it yourself, you've seen it, you know,
Yeah.
it's,
Well, what's in front of us right now, we need to understand and advise and have an exchange of ideas. And we need to resolve this cross
Yeah.
road.
Well, we would probably ask for a future cross-access easement for the properties to the west, because obviously nobody can traverse the property to the east, as it's parkland. So that's what we would be asking for, and in your comments, if you want to mention the fact that this had historically been discussed as potentially blah, blah, blah.
Right.
We can do that, but I would focus, if you could, on just the project as they're presenting it, and the comments you have relative to, as you were saying, perhaps all the parking being front-loaded and on the front, and
Yeah.
then the building in the back.
Yeah.
Like, those are the kinds of things that you would say.
All right. Okay, and this drainage,
But you know, I
We
think,
understand the issue. but-
yeah.
I think one of the issues we talked about here is that access. If that is still on the comprehensive plan, but
Future cross-access is different than if the town were to come in, unless it was agreed by the applicant, and decide we're gonna put a road there, that's condemnation. That's not what we're talking about.
Right.
So that's why you need to focus on what they have, and just routinely and commonly, we ask for, future cross-access, so that the public using basically ostensibly those facilities can meander through, as opposed to jumping back on the highway every time they wanna access something. That's different than what was being contemplated and obviously discussed previously.
Yeah, the tricky spot, you know, you got
Sure.
access, you got this business.
There's a lot going on there. To say the
Lot of
least,
ins and
tricky is a
outs.
good word.
But
Yeah.
the architecture is
So
beautiful.
what do we have, January 11th?
So
work
January
session?
11th with Janice, and do some history, and then we'll talk about this some more, maybe you can think about it some more. And then we'll have a public hearing on January 24th, correct? January 25th.
So we
when the
have to
public will
do an
come.
action at this meeting outside of the work session.
Right.
So you'd have to close the work session
Yeah,
and do that.
okay.
Today, or?
Have to do it today, because we have to make sure that that notice doesn't go in the paper. Right now, we've got to set the mechanism up to the notice going in the paper and the sign being picked up, and we have to stop that today.
So I'm closing the work session. What else do I need to do?
And then you're opening it for the regular session, and then we're gonna have an action to reschedule the pre-submission
Okay,
conference
right.
on this from December 14th to January 25th.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Thanks. So we're closing the work session, going into regular session. And Teresa, are you here?
Do you want to schedule that now?
Let's do it
All right,
now.
we'll do it first, okay.
Please, yeah.
Yeah. Make a motion to reschedule the public hearing, pre-submission conference for 157 West Montauk Highway from December 14th to January 24th.
25th.
5th.
Motion.
Motion by Dennis, second by Kate, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor.
Or-
Thank you.
Yeah, it's like, you would think they would do it. Mention the top of the Hammett study after the lawsuit and everything else.
you get,
Oh, we have, no. Let's,
Bless you.
Bless you.
hey, Teresa.
Good afternoon, how are you?
Good.
So, as you may remember, we had a pre-submission conference on October 12th, 2023, and we had a 30-day comment period, which was closed last week. The applicant is seeking to establish a plant nursery on this vacant parcel located in R15 zoning district, which is partially within the town and partially within the village. During the public hearing, we had some neighbors express some concerns, which were outlined in the report. We also received some additional comments from property owners, both for and against.
Is this the one where the video was submitted to us?
Yes,
Yeah.
correct. And some site photographs. I did outline the concerns that were brought up on, during the comment period, and there were about 6 or 7 letters of support from adjacent property owners as well, which are in the file if you care to read them. First and foremost, the property is mostly vacant. There is a small shed here, which did not receive a building permit or site plan approval. The use of that shed needs to be identified. When they submit a site plan, that needs to be located on the site plan. The proposed action is type 2, as it's considered agriculture, and no further additional secret review will be required. It is partially located within the village of Southampton, so coordination may be required with the village. The applicant is seeking approval of the plant nursery, and pursuant to 330-5 of the town code, a plant nursery is defined as out-of-doors raising of landscape or ornamental plants for wholesale. No retail sales shall be permitted, either as a principal or accessory use. Based on an inspection that I completed on November 6th, there is signage currently on the property that indicates that retail is by appointment only, so they'll have to bring the parcel into compliance with the town code. Additionally, during the inspection, it was determined that there were several large mounds of soil, RCA, gravel, and landscape debris that's generally associated with special trade contractor use, as those materials are usually not used for wholesale growing of plant material.
Are they growing the plants on site?
There are some in the ground, and there are some that are balled and burlapped.
Yeah, I mean, thought I heard the applicant say it was sort of a staging area.
That he digs them up from other places and brings them here to store them until he's ready to sell
But
them or
not,
replant them.
not, he wasn't gonna be raising them, he was just gonna be leaving them there for a short period until he was using them
Right.
elsewhere. So
Right.
that was my
So, additional clarification is needed, but, obviously, temporary plants that are balled and burlapped are gonna be shipped off-site. That's gonna happen at a plant nursery, right? You're growing the plants, you dig them up, you ball and burlap them, they stay there for a day or two, and then they get shipped off. The majority should be used for planting, but, there is going to be some portions of the parcel that are going to have trees and shrubs that are not going to be physically in the ground. That's just gonna be how that is. That's how nursery operations work. You can't just pluck the plant out of the ground and ship it over the same day.
I mean, that's not what I heard the applicant describe business. So I think for me, that's an important clarification.
Right, and it did say that additional information would be required as part of the formal site plan approval, explaining exactly how his operations will be occurring at the site, which is the last line in item number 4 on the report. Again, I did an inspection November 6th, and in order to resolve some outstanding issues with respect to the site, they do need to bring the property into conformance with Chapter 330. And it should be, I am recommending that within 60 days of the adoption of this report, which will need to be today is the action deadline, that the applicant shall remove the signage as well as the unauthorized soil and gravel material. Also remove the trailer, which is currently parked on County Road 39, Wiltshire Street Road right-of-way. And if that's not done within 60 days, to refer to code enforcement. Some members of the public have expressed concerns about the hours of operation at the site. So that information should be clarified as part of the formal site plan application. Upon receipt of the formal site plan application, the application should be referred to the Ag Advisory Board. Any additional structures inclusive of the existing unauthorized shed should be shown on the site plan, and clarification is needed with respect to the use of the shed. Access guidance should be sought from the town engineer with respect to the appropriate lines of sight from the corner of County Road 39 and Wiltshire, so that they have safe ingress and egress. The site plan itself will need to provide additional details with respect to the portions of the parcel that will be utilized for plant nursery stock, equipment storage, and access. At present, if you look at the map that I handed out, it appears that the driveway areas appear to be excessive in relation to the actual planting areas.
Can we add loading and receiving to that line as well?
Yes, of course.
So this is all storage.
Yeah, everything on there says storage.
No plans.
And outdoor storage?
No, we're just commenting that on the site plan that we have so far, or survey, which, you know, every area that they've got, you know, identifies as proposed plant storage area, not nursery plantings.
Right.
You know, and that's what we all heard from the
Yeah, that's-
applicant
yeah,
too.
so-
as
So
a-
it really doesn't comply to a
The
plant
the
nursery?
code.
To the code?
Based on the
bottom
map,
line-
it's, so,
Yeah.
you know, it appears
But you're
to
looking for clarification.
not
about
provide
that.
additional, it doesn't, they need to provide additional information to confirm
Yeah,
that
I
that's
mean, I
going
don't
to
s-
be
I
plant
don't see-
growing areas.
I can contribute to this when you're ready.
Okay. And- Go ahead.
Landscaping, they didn't provide a landscaping plan at this pre-submission conference, they weren't required to. They have installed, as you can see, several large trees along Wiltshire Street. There are residential properties here and commercial business here. Additional landscape plans should be provided as part of the formal site plan application, which provides screening for the residential properties at minimum and potentially the commercial building to the south. In the event that lighting is proposed, a lighting plan is needed. And then Ms. Bale is here to represent the applicant.
Can I go back
Please,
to
yes.
number 9 for just a quick second?
Okay.
The curb cuts on Wiltshire would have to be approved by the highway superintendent. The curb cuts on 39, I believe, would be approved by Suffolk County DPW.
I believe their intention is not to take access from County Road 39.
Oh,
If you,
okay.
if you drive by the site, you'll see that there had been a curb cut
Yeah,
and
you can see it there.
they
Oh,
blocked
shall
it
be
off.
prohibited, I'm sorry, I missed that.
I mean, it's a temporary block off with some very large bald and burlap trees, but it is currently blocked off. And it's really not safe. I would recommend that no access be provided on County Road 39.
So the Wiltshire is the only place you're looking for the curb cuts? Or
Yes, correct.
you're referencing curb cuts?
Yes.
Gotcha.
And I believe the applicant did say that he intended only to take access from Wiltshire.
Okay, thanks.
Good
Hey,
afternoon, board
Liz.
members. Liz Gale, Greenberg Traurig, 2317 Montauk Highway, Bridgehampton, on behalf of the applicant. So I have had a chance to look through the report, and I did want to just emphasize a couple of things. First, we are going to come into compliance, obviously, with the town code, chapter 330, and the definition of plant nursery. That's something that the applicant's very interested in doing. We're gonna pursue that. We're gonna have to submit probably amended plans for your review and consideration going forward. So we've gotten some great feedback from the planning department on that. But I would just wanted to note, I watched the hearing as well. I wasn't retained for that hearing, but I watched it. And I noticed that there was some opposition represented by council who spoke, but I didn't see any other people speaking at the hearing. And I don't know what letters you received, but there's like 20 negative comments in the report on page 2. 20. And there's no positive comments at all. But there are, at least in my possession, which were submitted to your board, at least 1, 2, 3. I've got 4 letters, all from people who live on Wiltshire Street, saying positive things
We got them.
about the application. I would just like their
Right.
comments also reflected in your report to make sure it's not just representing the opposition to anything occurring on this
I
site.
did, and I said several nearby property owners expressed support.
But there's 20 specific negative comments, and there's no positive comments. And there are positive comments listed in these letters,
So more
which should be
specifically-
reflected in your report.
So we'll list them.
Yeah, thank you, if you would.
But
So that was,
But they're general comments.
they're
just
not
saying-
general comments, I can read them to you. I'm
the
happy to
ones that I
read them to the
received,
board
they're
right
like,
now.
"We're supportive of this
Well, I read
project."
them, they were form letters that people signed.
They're not form letters, they're all specific letters, actually. Do you want me to read
But I
them?
think-
Different.
I don't
Maybe
think the
they're
letter
different.
spoke
They're-
to the specifics of the application, whereas the negative comments did. They just said he's a good neighbor, and it spoke more to the general operation of
Well,
the-
they actually said, okay, I'm gonna have to read them. To whom it may concern, this is the person at 83 Wiltshire Street. I have a home on Wiltshire Street for 26 years. I've been very happy with our purchase. Before the applicant began any work on his property, he spoke to all the neighbors with homes close to his lot. He told us he would screen the property, make it look much better than the overgrown, trash-filled, empty lot that it was. He has done that. He said he's done all that he said he would do, and frankly, I think the lot looks 100 times better. I don't have any concerns. He's been a good neighbor. That's one. Another one, 91 Wiltshire. We reside at 91 Wiltshire in Southampton, directly across the street from 96 Wiltshire Street, where the plant nursery is located. We support the use of this property in this manner as it does not disturb us, and we are very happy with
when Mr. Grealish planted all those tall evergreen trees along Wiltshire Street to shield us from his activities and from County Road 39. This is from 105 Wiltshire Street. To whom it may concern, please accept this correspondence as positive reference from for my neighbor, Peter Grealish. Although the property is used for a nursery, he behaves more like a trusted residential neighbor. Indeed, I feel more secure when he and his crew are there. Having lived on Wiltshire Street since 2015, I can honestly say Peter's property improves the neighborhood. In addition, I'm quite certain his improvements to the property have increased the value of my property. Specifically, the mature evergreen trees planted along the perimeter not only look good, but act as a noise barrier for the highway. It's enjoyable to see the different trees he brings in, as I'm an avid gardener. Is there anything more I can provide in terms of support? Please let me know.
Just as
The
a
last
point of
one-
reference, where is number 105 in relation to the?
They're all
It's on
across the
Wiltshire
street.
Street.
They're across the street.
Yeah. The next one is from, let's see, 121 Wiltshire Street. This letter, its purpose is to inform about the correct use of land at 96 Wiltshire Street. Since the new landlord acquired 96 Wiltshire Street, the improvements of the land he did immediately enhance the entrance when approaching Wiltshire Street. In terms of noise, I work from home and I've never experienced any type of discomfort or machines being exposed. I strongly support the current development of 96 Wiltshire Street. So that is specific to the operations that are occurring there and some of the improvements that were done to the property. And I think
Primarily the trees.
yeah,
Trees.
primarily, but I do
Yeah.
think some of these comments are germane and should be included to be fair, to avoid any appearance of bias as like being opposed to this.
Well, they were general letters
Yeah.
of support, but only
There are
specific
further letters. She
things.
said there's 7 letters. There's more in the record.
No, then I was incorrect.
Oh.
Those were the ones that I
Okay.
received.
So maybe if we should mention the trees are specific
Yeah.
aspect.
And one did speak about noise,
Yes,
that they work from home and that the noise
Yeah, well,
doesn't
that
bother them. I
goes
think
to the
that's
trees
specific
as
as
a
well.
noise attenuation.
Right.
Yeah.
So we
Okay.
should probably.
Anything else?
That was my major concern. Other than that, I'm gonna, bring everything back to our client and make sure we conform with the code and move forward with our application. And I look forward to working with all of you, getting through the process.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Teresa, anything more?
No, that's it.
I'll move to adopt the
Okay.
report.
Motion to adopt the pre-submission report by
Second.
Dennis, second by George, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
abstentions, 7 in favor. Thank you. Michael Min.
Thanks, Liz. Good to see
Michael
you.
Minkoff.
Minkoff.
Thank you.
Okay, so this next property is the Michael Minkoff property located at 297 County Road 39. And this is the existing suburban auto garage, auto repair garage, and they are looking to
That doesn't
convert it
trigger?
to a special trade
Time of
contractor.
day.
We had discussed this report last week at the planning board meeting, and I had made some minor amendments. Initially, the major sticking point appears to be the access to the rear of the property, which is only 12.9 feet from the property line, and there's existing trees now that line the property line, so getting an easement over
Yeah.
that section is going to be difficult. We had discussed the possibility of getting an easement over the Norsec site here. We looked at our records. It had been initially recommended that a cross-access be provided over this parcel here, but it was not required by the final approval. I have advised the applicant's agent to reach out to the property owners to see if they can get an easement, as that would most likely be the most cost-effective way to
maybe.
obtain access to the parcel. Another option that had been discussed was removing portions of the building. So, Mr. Benacasa, who represents the property owner, is going to be looking into doing that cross-access easement. And then he did clarify to me that he misspoke at the public hearing and at the last work session. They are not looking to do a separate warehouse use for the building. They're looking to convert a portion of the building into interior storage associated with this, special trade contractor, which is fine. And may change, as long as we get a plan that shows which portions would be devoted to warehousing of the materials used by the special trade contractor, we would, be able to look at the parking there. But again, the major sticking point here was the access. And Mr. Benacasa indicated that he will be reaching out to the property owner, the adjacent property owner, and/or the fire marshal to explore multiple avenues in order to get sufficient access. So we're looking to adopt today's report.
So just for clarification, Teresa, it's now a body repair shop,
Correct.
and they are not wanting to do a special trade contractor?
Yes.
Or just a warehouse?
Special trade contractor with indoor storage for the contractor,
Not a separate warehouse.
not a separate warehouse. It would be one use with storage for the contractor's equipment
In that same building?
in the same building. And he just indicated that to me this afternoon in the hallway. So the report does say that they need to clarify if it was a separate use, but I'll just note that it's for the contractor.
Okay. Any questions? Motion to adopt by Kate, second by Gloria, and all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor. Thank you, Teresa.
Thanks, Teresa.
Claire, Jeffrey Delandro.
This is one we discussed last meeting, the applicant's representative was here. This was the industrial building along Spionk Riverhead Road. I was just, I reviewed the staff report with you, waiting for the public comment period to be over. There was no public comments. And I prepared a resolution, which I'll have, I'll pass out to you in a second. Do you want the plans too? The applicant provided updated plans that I've referred to the town engineer.
Updated from what we saw?
Yes, but mostly town engineer addressing their issues.
Right.
So.
Building hasn't moved?
Yeah,
No.
nothing like that, so just the drainage and things like that. So I refer to the town engineer, but we're still gonna have all his comments as conditions that they'll have to get issue approval prior to the signature of the plans.
Are we getting the electric charging?
And two
Two, all right.
stations.
Yeah, 2 of them?
Two.
Good.
Based upon the, the 5% that we've been doing, so. Pass down the reports, so the report's really not changed. There is one issue though, I did mention it, reports, is that the previous approval on this for the Excelsior Plumbing that's to the north of the site did have future cross access. So, I did let the applicant know that, and so I think that it probably is warranted to have it, whether you ever implement it or not.
Where would the
is up to
access
you.
be clear, in the back?
Yeah, it would have to be in the back, because there's the front buffers
Uh-huh.
on all 3 lots. But we could connect it, it would have to be, the buildings kind of line up too, it would be, kind of have to be in this area. And there might be some
The
clearing.
rear of the building, the rear of the
The
building.
rear of the building, so, just general future cross access. 'Cause you never know how busy Spionk Riverhead Road might be. So I let the applicant know that, and I've incorporated that into the decision. But that's the only significant change to it. So would you like me to read the conditions?
Sure.
Okay.
We went over the special exceptions, right?
We
Yes.
did,
Yeah.
yes. So here is actually 3 actions technically. The first one is to amend the covenant. If you remember, the covenant's at 25%, it's gonna go to 50%, which is consistent with the code. So that's the first resolved. The second resolved is the special exception approval. And that condition related to that, at the big top of page 2, is no, the outdoor storage is prohibited without further planning board review. And then the conditions related to the site plan is to note the location of 2 chargers on the parking lot, compliance with Department of Public Safety comments, compliance with the town engineer comments. All lighting mounted on poles on the building shall be mounted no more than 10 feet above grade. Note the dumpster to be enclosed and landscaped pursuant to the code. General condition, project limiting fence shall be installed prior to commencement of clearing or work on sites. All HVAC systems, including mechanicals on the roof, shall be screened and located so not to be visible from the adjacent roadways. No dusted dawn lighting fixtures, all proposed lighting shall be shielded. And then E, I just kind of copied the outdoor storage, we don't need it twice, so I'm gonna strike.
Take it out?
Yeah, strike E. And then I just put a question mark next to the future cross-access easement agreement, but I think it makes sense in this case. Title certification, payment of the town engineer fee, which is E. Affidavit, 6 sets of plans, not 10. You want
So you
Lorian
want,
signing too much. And
you
then
want
maintenance
three separate ones, Claire, approvals?
No, all in the same
All in
resolution,
one.
but it's all has the 3 resolved, so I just
Okay.
want to make sure that you understood that. I'm recommending approval with conditions.
I'll move.
Moved by Dennis, second by Tom, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor. Thank you, Claire. Do you, Anthony, you've got the next
Bunch.
3.
Yep. 91 Fanning.
Number 5, Gaspar and Devira Terezi, 91 Fanning Avenue, and 174 Wakeman Road, Hampton Bays. Action deadline.
Yeah, we talked about this one last time. We would just, let me just open up the map here, bear with me.
The buffers issue, right?
Yeah, that's correct, Jackie. So the board will remember, we were looking at this subdivision in the R20 zoning district. It involved a lot line change with this existing lot, acquire a little bit more land, I guess to address the retaining wall encroachment. And then to create 2 lots over here, one existing house right now. So the end result will be 1 additional building lot. We went through everything last time, the just outstanding issue, because Kevin was going back to the applicant. We talked about, the buffer. I think we agreed the road there wasn't much in the way on the road frontage to establish a buffer, so the question was along this property line. The Conservation Board, if you recall, recommended a 35. I believe Ken Springer's client said he would put forth a 20-foot buffer along this property line, which is sort of where I came out of last time. I thought that was a reasonable compromise. So that was going to be my recommendation. I just want to see if I have the map up. As we said, we had.
Oh, this was the issue with the Pine Beach.
Yeah, well, the other one, you'll see on an area on the next, one of my next projects, a far worse case. But in any case, he did say they would do the 20-foot along this property line, so if that was something the board could live with, that would be my recommendation.
Okay. Any comments?
No?
I'm okay with 20.
Everybody's okay?
Are we doing the approval today?
Yeah, we had it last time.
Yes.
Oh.
I do have one here.
All the other, what were the conditions?
All the other standard ones.
Just the standard ones?
There was nothing outrageous in there.
That's okay.
That's okay. I
Yeah.
think we went
I have
through
it
that.
here,
Yeah, we went through that.
I printed it
Oh,
out.
good. So I'm just gonna recommend approval, subject to the conditions as outlined in the resolution, with the revision that there'll be a 20-foot wide buffer
Okay.
along the property line.
Okay. Yes, that was the buffer, that was the one thing you had,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Anything else great out in there were probably things that I.
Removal of the one-story cottage? and
Yeah,
screen
there's
shade?
just structures in the back there. I just wanted to note that that had to be done, but they got to be
Removal.
removed prior to this.
Anthony, you had included the reso in the packet, and I made a note, IA system ? Because it's not specified that way.
The IA system septic will be noted specifically in the
Yeah.
resolution.
Required by the Board of Health.
Yeah, but we
Yes,
like to
But I
put
like
it
to
in.
see the words.
Okay, motion to adopt?
Motion.
By Gloria, second by Dennis, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor. Thomas and Julie Crowley, 7 Canal Street, Hampton
I already
Bays.
talked to Kevin. We're going to do an extension on that until December 14th.
Extension to December 14. Motion?
Motion?
Motion by Craig, second by
Second.
Gloria, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor. 32 Hill Station Road, pre-application report, adoption.
I'm pretty sure.
Got a long text on the archaeology.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna give you a summary of that, actually.
I like it.
Well, it has a very interesting history, this.
This is a
Yeah, this was in front of us ages ago.
Very active.
Do you remember this property? Dennis?
Yes, I do.
This goes way back.
Way
Yes,
back.
it does.
So, just by way of a little background here, it's easier to do the report this way. This is a property in Shinnecock Hills, the R60 zoning district. You sort of have Hill Station Road, Canoe Place, and Depot. Yeah, Depot Road comes over here, and then Old Canoe Place Road over here. This property had a final approval for a 3-lot subdivision in 2008. For the same plan that we're looking at now. Let me just open it up for the board.
Anthony, on the agenda, it says it's R40 zone.
Oh.
And now it's R60, but. if
There's a
it's
mistake somewhere.
If it's a 3-lot subdivision
split
with
the difference, R50.
122,000 square feet, it has to be R40 or it needs a ZBA variance.
Yeah, there's R40 for sure.
R40.
Yes, I'll fix that, thank you.
You know I'm the numbers lady.
No, that's good. It's always good to have eyes looking at these things. So basically, they're proposing the same 3-lot plan, okay, that was approved previously. Though it doesn't show it here, would be a common driveway with 3 lots in the back, with 3 lots altogether. I gave a little history here in the beginning. If you see on the bottom of the report, I grayed that out because I didn't put the approval date in there. There was so much history going on that I had trouble figuring out what the date was, but it was 2008, so I gotta put that in. So with this project, it's in Shinnecock Hills. Interesting, it is in the New York State Archaeological Sensitive Area. It is not in the Cultural Resources Overlay District, believe it or not. And this, by the way, was acknowledged, even though we didn't have the overlay district, we did have an understanding of the area, even when this was approved back then. It was acknowledged even back then that it wasn't in the resource area. Nevertheless, an archaeological had to be done at the time. When they did the archaeology, they found a sign, remnants of a church. And so the planning board then obviously raised the questions about there possibly being a church on this property. And I believe the history showed there had been a church in the area at one point that had burned down, and some remnants of the sign. Then the question became for the planning board, they did the archaeological study, phase 1A, phase 1B. They concluded that there were no prehistoric artifacts on the property. However, the question that was posed to the planning board at the time was, can you verify or can you confirm that there are no burial shafts there? And while the conclusion that he said was he didn't believe there were anything there, we didn't find anything in the phase 1A, 1B, that would not be conclusive enough to make a determination. So, and the report specifically says then that I will recommend that at the time of excavation, i.e. building permits have been issued, that there be an on-site archaeologist to verify. So that was really the big issue. So basically my report, and I'll go through the recommendations, mimics what was done previously, except that the planning board then approved this subdivision at the time with the condition that an archaeologist be on site at the time of excavation. I've already sat down with the applicant, and the report says this. That has to be determined now before I think a building permit gets issued. I mean, there wouldn't be more sense to determine now with whatever phase and the applicant is aware of this, do it now, not at the time of excavation. That seems like it's too late.
Yeah.
Because if they
So
do
what
find
is it,
something, they're
1C?
so embedded in the project at a cost perspective that we would just do it now.
Anthony, what is it, 1C? It's the next one
It's a
up from
1C,
1B.
but it's gonna be a more investigative work, digging deeper and probably doing those, silent grams, or whatever they're called,
Yes.
of the ground to see what's there.
Over the
This is
sonar.
ground penetrating stuff.
Yeah,
Like a sonar,
that kind of
right?
stuff to be conclusive.
So they do that within what the proposed building envelope would be only? Or,
Well, the archaeological that that we will require is gonna be whatever the state mandates to determine that there's no burial shaft. So my guess is, it wouldn't be limited to just the building envelope on the properties,
The
it's
whole
gonna be
thing.
an investigation of the entire site.
Oh, okay.
So that's really what this long archaeological, thing was, but it was my opinion then, rather than do it as a condition of approval when we get there, let's just do it now. So that
Yeah,
way.
I like
Makes
it.
sense.
Because that's what happened in Shinnecock Hills, was on
Yeah.
Hawthorne.
Right.
The entire development has been developed in one vacant property, and they found property there, so, makes sense.
Anthony, one other question. I remember when we were doing Shinnecock Hills properties some years back, even though it's not an APOD, we had clearing restrictions?
Yeah, I have them in here, so I'll go
Okay.
through that. So in the report, page 3, secret, it's still a type 2 action. It was type 2 at the time that they did this, but we still have to do the archaeological determination regarding the potential burials at the site. The planning board previously waived the cluster, and I guess we would recommend the same thing in this case. There's really no adjoining significant open space. By the way, to that point, so the board could see here, you could sort of see on this where the pine beetle has really devastated a big section of this property. It's now spilled over onto this property, and you can see it's spilled over onto this adjacent property. So this is a better example of
Yeah.
pine beetle infestation taking over half the property.
Wow.
There's a,
Let's
Um,
see.
there's a reference in here to the East Quogue Village Green.
Right.
On page 3, that, I guess that's.
The end of
That's
the
can't be
standard
right.
development section. Looks like a cut and paste.
Oh, yeah, that could very well be. That looks like it's a mistake.
The last sentence of that
Sorry about
standard
that.
development.
Yep. That is a cut and paste, but, so I'll fix that. Still a minor, application, fully conforms to zoning, no variances are needed. We would do, it's 3 lots, vacant piece of property, so the park fee would be based on, an appraised value.
Yeah.
We had a public hearing in May of 2023, I should say. So I'll fix that, no comments were received. Not subject to the Long Island Workforce Housing Act. Town engineer, page 3, and then next page, made some recommendations. He recommends relocating the common driveway, I think more in this location. So I put it in there. I'll let the applicant do his research with the town engineer. But the town engineer made some recommendations regarding that, the 3-inch rainfall. And just like they did the first time around, they asked for road widening easements. You can see these roads are sort of not to town specs and standards. So like they did the last time, they asked for future road widening easements in the event that it's needed to make road improvements.
So it's a private road now? I think Canoe Place Road is.
Yeah.
Or a trustee road.
This is a trustee road.
Right.
Yeah, no, they think this is a town road, actually,
Okay.
yeah. Town Office of Fire Prevention, at the end of the day, they're recommending a fire hydrant. The applicant is aware of this. They're gonna have to bring in public water. There's no public water here, so they're gonna have to bring it in.
Where's the closest hydrant?
Where's the closest public water?
Well, here we go. We could see that.
Comes up with little red dots?
No, well, here we go. So the water main's right in Montauk Highway here.
Oh.
And actually, right here, where I'm pointing this, there's a hydrant right here.
Yeah, the
So-
health department's gonna make him bring in public water anyway.
The health department's gonna make them bring in the public water, and they'll want a hydrant up there, or someone's gonna want the hydrant. Well, the fire marshal wants a hydrant, so they're gonna have to do that as part of this application. Conservation Board, talks about the, wooded portions of the property. They talk about Shinnecock Bay and the watershed area, the historic and cultural importance of the area. They're recommending easements. Basically, they're saying up here, basically to create buffers. What I did was, you didn't do that the first time around, but you did impose APOD-style clearing restrictions on the property. So that's how I I wrote this, I geared it towards doing APOD clearing restrictions as opposed to
Yeah.
conservation
Mhm.
easements. That's how I did. Trails Advisory had no trail recommendations. Highway Department said everything must be, all runoff must be contained on the lots and not onto Hill Station Road. And we didn't get any other comments from the CAC, Fire District, or the Health Department.
So, I'm just surprised that conservation doesn't acknowledge the pine beetle infestation. I mean, they talk about a lot of other stuff, but did they actually go to the site?
They.
Doesn't say anything.
Well, as Teresa, this has been going on for a while
Yeah.
now, this project, so as Teresa alluded to last time, you could go out there
Oh, it could happen in
and
the
then
next
a
month.
month later, all of a sudden,
True.
the vegetation is dead. But here, this aerial is very clear, as you could see,
Yeah.
and the spillover just kept going, sort of crazy. So recommendations, again, further archaeological investigation. We'll do it now, just have it done. Requirements, compliance with the requirements of the town engineer and the Office of Fire Prevention. 3 is waiving the flag lot requirement for 1.5 times. Given the lots in the area, I think the lots are consistent with the sizes that are in the area, so that requirement is probably not necessary. So the common driveway from Canoe Place Road, that was the recommendation of the town engineer, and that was the requirement of the planning board at the time of the original subdivision. So I'm assuming the conditions, remain the same. 5, clearing limitations of 50% for the properties. They would fall within that 50% limitation, so I would recommend that. So 6, I would just eliminate the buffers in my recommendation by keeping the clearing restrictions. That's where you
Right.
protect the vegetation. 8 talks about the stone marker that was found on the site, that was found originally, and that it should be retained on the site and designated on the final map. That was a condition the first time around, so we'll keep the condition in there.
And the stone marker?
For the church.
Oh, for
Yeah,
the church.
yeah.
That's gonna be in one of the private lots?
Yeah, that's what it was done the first time. I believe it was Lot 2, I believe, is where they, that was the recommendation that came out of the, did you have a
Would
different?
it be more advisable to have that just right in the right-of-way, off the lot? I mean, someone could pile up leaves on it or
Yeah.
damage it. There's no,
Is it
there seems to,
worthwhile?
there looks to be there's excessive land right outside the lot line.
Yeah. Is that what you're thinking then?
Yeah.
I can make that recommendation.
Like referring it to the landmarks and.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, you
Maybe-
keep it on a private lot and you have no
That's the
control.
end
At
of
least
it.
this way, the town has some, able to maintain it and monitor it, you know.
So then what I'll do is say we will refer this, to the Landmarks Board for their opinion, but it is the planning board's opinion that it should be relocated to
Just outside.
just outside the
Yeah,
right-of-way
on
so
the
that the
right-of-way,
town.
yeah.
Okay, I think that's good. Show the width of Hill Station Road, they didn't provide any of that information, and the ownership of Canoe Place. Show all drainage structures and indicate invert elevations for all structures within 200 feet of the site. That was a requirement last time. Survey monuments was required, and then health department approval for the subdivision. So again, like I said, I think the primary issue with this was the archaeology, and I think we could correct it now as opposed to making a condition.
So Anthony, can I ask a couple of quick?
Yeah, of course.
Number 4, I think the town engineer said that the driveway should come in off Canoe Place Road, so then that would go to road review committee,
So he actually told,
Yeah.
he actually said in the town law 200, which
Yeah.
means bringing it into the public road system as opposed to road review.
Well,
Say
that's
that
a
again?
The
trustee
recommendation
road.
said about town law 200.
He's well, that's a trustee road.
So that's almost making it, a portion of it into a town road up to the access, I'm guessing. I don't know.
Okay, I guess that'll have to be worked out then with the, because if it's a trustee road,
Yeah.
you can't bring it in, well.
Yeah.
The issue of bringing a trustee road into the town road system's a long conversation. But the highway department, in their email said, the highway department stated the lots must contain all runoff to Hill Station Road. I don't understand? I thought they weren't supposed to have runoff onto a road.
They're not. I don't think it's
Okay.
worded correctly. I think what it's
What I
supposed
mean
to
is
say
that-
is to contain all runoff within the individual lots.
Right.
So
And then
it
not
doesn't-
onto Hill
Yeah,
Station
no,
Road.
it doesn't hit Hill
Yeah.
Station Road.
So you're
Oh,
right
right,
about that.
okay, gotcha.
And I could clarify that.
Okay, right.
And just for the record, Tom Neely is our representative to road review.
Yes.
Thank you, Tom,
There you go.
Hey,
for going to the meetings.
Yes,
Great.
learning a lot.
Did we have, did we always have a planning board member on Rotary?
Always.
We
I was-
did,
I was there
we
for
did.
years.
I used to go,
I used,
and Tom is good because he
Right.
knows the roads.
And you're starting to see some of what we see here, now you see that
There.
eventually ends up at the road review
Yep.
committee. Right,
I couldn't remember the planning board was there.
So recommend approval with the revisions?
that's right.
I'll move to accept.
That's it.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
mo-
yes, motion?
Motion? Yeah.
Motion by
George.
George, second by Gloria, and all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor.
Jackie, I have a few applicants here.
All right.
They are,
I have Chicken Briar Hill,
What number?
Item 12?
which is number 12.
okay.
Just bear with me.
$5.
What did it say, $5?
$5 to get candy.
Chicken Briar Hill first is just to do a 90-day extension for submission of the final maps. So I'll put that forth first.
Motion?
Motion.
Motion by Kate, second by
Second.
Dennis, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in
And-
favor.
And then just one other issue with that, Chicken Briar Hill. It's actually just to make a correction on the approval. When we did the approval, it talks about a common driveway and utility easement. However, it's just a common driveway easement. The utilities coming to the individual lots, actually. I just wanted to do a resolution,
Mhm.
correcting
Okay.
the resolution to reflect that it's just a common driveway.
Oh, driveway, okay. Do we do that by resolution?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll move it.
Second.
Oh, we're doing it as a
resolution,
as a
yeah.
resolution. Motion by Dennis,
Because
second by
we're
Gloria, and all in
amending
favor.
approval.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor.
And then it's,
I did.
So that's in addition to the extension.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So what are we talking about? That's an add-on, walk-on? What do you want? We have to have a record of it here.
Yeah, we'll do it as a,
you can have it in one resolution.
oh, I could do it in one resolution, actually, Jackie.
The extension and the,
you already did two motions, why don't you just leave it separate?
Yeah.
I'll
okay,
ask the agenda,
so let's
Jackie.
do it as a walk-on, number
23.
23, Chicken Briar amendment, right? Okay. All right, so.
And I have just the applicant here real quick for
For-
Eastport Bible Church.
Number 20.
Couldn't make it.
Yeah, no, I'll
The board remembers this
Number
project.
20, oh,
The
yes.
community center at the Eastport Bible Church.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We've had this on a few times, we deemed it incomplete. This was actually, because it's over 50 parking spaces, it's a type 1 action under secret.
Oh, wow.
Uh-huh.
So today's purpose was just to initiate the lead agency coordination with the involved agencies, so I could at least get that much going.
Okay, motion?
Motion.
By Dennis, second by Gloria, and all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor. And you want lead agency on Jane Firth too?
No, that's off the agenda.
Number 21 is off.
22 is off also, oh, you don't have 22, you have no vote.
No.
Loaves and Fishes, Claire, it's off?
No,
Yes, those are the
Number
not on the
22
agenda.
is off.
not anymore.
It's not on this
Well,
one.
that's probably, Jack,
give
you
it
printed,
over.
it. You printed
Yeah, I
yours anyway,
printed
so
it,
it's
yeah.
not on the current agenda.
You done?
I just have a few more.
Oh, no, go ahead.
You have a site disturbance,
Want
Ludlow?
me to do my bad too? Yeah, let me, this, these. So,
Ludlow Green?
yeah, so,
Bridgehampton?
when the subdivision was done,
Covered bridge.
We created, it's not, you know, not an aquifer or anything like that, but.
Sorry, what number were we looking at?
9.
So as you'll see, when the subdivision was done,
9.
you know,
Did we do
they,
11?
they created these buffers to maintain this existing vegetation. As you can see here, these slivers of land between the farm field. And basically, everyone has blown out these buffer areas, for the most part. This person has come in to rectify the situation with the re-veg plan here, and actually, their property encroached down here, so they're looking to fix this portion of the easement and this portion of the easement. They're looking to remove the fencing that's in there, to put it outside of the easement, and then to revegetate this area with a planting plan that I have with natural vegetation, which is fine, it's good, and like I said, most of this has been blown out, everyone's got, you know, ornamental landscaping in here and all the rest of it, but they did come in with a natural vegetation plan, which I
Why?
thought was. What's that?
Why?
Well, because they're probably going to do something on the property,
Okay.
and someone picked up on it. The only thing that I did say, I'm just recommending approval of the revegetation plan. They're moving the fence, they gave us a nice plan with some really nice native species, but they just sort of want to keep the hedgerow in there as well, as opposed to ripping it out. And
Why can't they have just two things, the hedgerow and the planting?
that's what I
That's what
mean,
it is.
my
They're
recommendation
asking for
is
that.
keep it, because at this stage of the
It's a
game,
deeper
this is not a
buffer.
natural buffer, it's just
Yeah.
buffering between neighbors. So keep it in, and I recommend approval of the pre-veg for this 16 Ludlow Green,
16 or 13?
13.
13.
Motion.
Okay, motion?
Anthony, my note says that there was some stuff missing, so from whatever you sent us.
Okay,
So please double check it since we're not looking at it.
okay, I will do that for you, for sure.
Motion by George,
Second?
second by Craig, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor. And 11 is incomplete, right?
Yeah, so does everyone remember this one? This is, long skinny lot. This
Oh,
is
yeah,
on
next to
West
McDonald's.
Montauk, next to
Yeah.
McDonald's, and then you have
Yeah.
Stop and Shop back
Stop
here.
and Shop, yeah.
This is for the change of use. It's going to a antique and furniture repair shop, to a retail, home furnishing, and nail salon.
Right.
It's incomplete.
Yeah.
Motion?
Motion.
By Dennis, second by Craig, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor. You're done.
No
Claire.
time zoning board tonight.
You're not
We'll
done.
give you a little
But
break.
you have a little mini break.
A little break, we'll take it.
A little mini break. And we won't see you for 3 weeks.
I'll be here if you want to see me.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Claire, you're number 4, is it? I thought it was 3.
The 14th of December.
That's right. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Take care.
So the
Olay.
one I have the resolution for you, but, the next one, Noel Crestwood. What number is that?
8, item 8.
I have the resolution for you, but it's pretty straightforward. It's, in this subdivision, they required the lots to have 35% clearing
Oh.
instead of the requirement of the code. It would be 60% in this case. So it's an amendment to the covenants.
So we've
We've
seen
done
this
like
before.
eight
Yep.
of these so
Right.
far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is definitely just
Yeah,
bringing,
and
and
it was-
he's
it was
very
in-
in conformance.
It was in the packet, so.
Yeah,
we
and
read it.
he's in conformance, he's at 48%, so he's not one of the ones to revegetate to, so. So I recommend amendments.
Okay. Motion?
Motion.
Motion by Gloria, second by Craig, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor. Sandy Hollow, Claire?
Yeah, this is a new project, 25 Sandy Hollow. It's a pre-submission. It's the, property located,
Is that the one that has some sort of a big
yes.
thing standing on it?
Yes. Yeah, it was the auto repair, maybe an auto body shop.
I don't know whether it was.
And Sandy Hollow, as you come around the corner, you're pulling through. And they used to have a statue.
Yes.
Made out of auto parts. So.
Oh, yeah.
So, but now, the property owners, they've been owned the property forever. They're gonna switch it to a special trade contractor use, which is appropriate, say HB zoning
Yeah.
district.
No, I mean, nobody repairs cars anymore.
No,
You-
they
you
don't
need
seem to.
computers.
You just throw them out.
Well, you need to have a computer to repair them, and these guys
Yes,
didn't
exactly.
do that.
That's right, where it curves on
Yep.
to
Yeah.
meet into 39?
Yep,
Yeah.
Right.
exactly.
Yeah, on the
Yes.
right-hand side.
So,
Yeah.
it requires pre-submission, so I recommend pre-submission scheduling, but man, at this point, are we
When-
talking about?
February?
It's what, you've got 125 is in the reso. You want to move it to February?
I mean, I did before we
Yes.
scheduled another thing on that agenda, so.
We've-
That-
we've
that would be three.
on for the 25th.
Or, I don't think there'll be public interest in this, it's up to you.
Let's put it on.
25th or
Yeah.
Sure.
February?
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna, nobody.
25th, if you don't
Yeah.
think it's gonna be, yeah, so schedule a public hearing, your submission for January 25th, 2024, motion.
Motion.
By Gloria and second by Kate, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor. Blessing Fields, Claire, number 13,
So
action.
we've been extending this, they have their plans in, the town engineer has not responded to dates. This one, I think we would want the town engineer sign off, so I'll work on that until the December date. That's all we're really waiting for, so we've gone over the staff report, just waiting for the town engineer to get a decision.
Okay,
So this one, I think, will happen on the 16th. So if we could do an extension for action deadline.
to December 16th,
I'm sorry.
14th.
14th.
Motion.
Motion by Dennis, second by
Second.
Gloria, and all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor. Puccio,
Puccio might be a
another
little bit more
extension.
districts, but we'll go December 14th, and it probably will go to January, just.
Well, why don't we do it?
I can
You can't?
only act on what he's requested, though
Oh,
I
he's
did,
requested.
I did beg him for
Yeah.
January, and he said, please don't do this.
Okay.
Again, we'll talk to the town engineer we're waiting for on this one, I just think that the issues might be a little larger
Then that.
than that, so
Okay.
this probably will be another extension on the 14th, just so you know.
Okay, Puccio, extension to December 14th, motion by Gloria, second by Craig, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor.
And Watermill Square is off the agenda, they have submitted plans, I just have to double check them.
Okay. We did the referrals.
And then my last one is Lake Creek, which is McDonald's.
ZBA.
The
ZBA.
McDonald's on Flanders.
And Flanders, yeah, so that's 30.
It's a sign on the dock?
No, it's it's a sign, the signage, and so there's a couple things with the signage, so I'll go through it with you. There's a definite history with this project. So about 7 years ago, they went to the ZBA to legalize all their existing sign, and they included a big sign with internal illumination and things like that. And the planning board wrote a very good report, and the ZBA listened, and the sign that is now freestanding is, externally illuminated, nice subtle sign, kind of like what Hampton Bays, had for a sign, so that's good. What they're coming in for now is a sign on the mansard roof, which was McDonald's, it's about 48 square feet they're asking for. If this was just the sign code, they would be allowed to put something on the mansard roof, but 24 square feet. And you'd have to hide the brackets, you couldn't see the brackets, so there's a design element to it too. However, the sign, the requirements for a fast food restaurant say the sign has to be on the side of the building only, and a certain amount of square footage
And where are
also.
they proposing it?
On the mansard roof.
Mansard roof.
Yeah.
On the mansard as opposed to the side of the building.
Yeah, and as opposed to the side of the building. They could put an M, the M or McDonald's on the side of the building. It's just not a lot of frontage because it's a lot of glass, right?
Right.
On the front of the building. I guess we could take a look at the Google Maps too, if you want.
Yeah, let's,
So that's the big variance in my estimation. We can discuss it. The other variances are, they're doing the bars again with the clearance, but this time it's better. It's like, it's painted order here, it's not like a separate sign and stuff like that. So that I thought was good in order. But you can see this.
Okay, so what have they got now? Anything
So
up
they
there?
put this sign up, they put the McDonald's sign up without a permit.
Can you
Oh,
make that full
okay.
screen, the street view?
I think.
Okay, yeah, that's much better.
Does that make them, can you see that?
Okay, so the standing monument sign's good.
Mm-hmm,
Then they put that up without a,
Without a permit.
without a permit.
and that's too large, it's 28
It's too large.
square
It's
feet.
too large if you just went by the sign code. It's not permitted on the mansard roof at all if you also look at the code, which says, doesn't matter what the sign code says, you have to follow these directions if you're doing a signage for fast food restaurants.
And what would they get instead? Anything, an alternative?
They could do it on the side of the building.
They could do McDonald's
I
on
mean,
the
we
side
all
of the
know
building.
it's McDonald's.
But I mean, they've got the big sign out front.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Not
There's-
surprised.
How
What
you,
are they-
how you miss it? I don't know.
They
Set a
don't,
bad precedent.
I mean,
they don't
there's,
need anything.
there's no
on
space on the
roof.
side of the building to put it early, yeah.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
board encourages
I
the
would say
applicant to
no.
comply with
Yeah.
the code.
Comply with the
This is
code.
ZBA refer.
Yeah.
Yes, and I
That's-
just actually put, let me give it to you. I also gave you, you can take a peek at this. I actually gave you the referral that you did 7 years ago. And it's very, very clear.
That's
Similar?
organized, okay.
Yes. So that's the last page. So I'm gonna start to say, again, the planning board recommends the signs to be designed in conform with the current town code. Site is located in the village business district. There should be no sign on the mansard roof. They could put a sign on the side of the building in conformance, right?
But they have to know what size it is.
Then there's a design, then there, in the code, you could do it a certain size, you know, for
On
for
either
square
side?
footage.
Either side?
Yeah, I mean, there is room here where the little, you can't see that maybe, but it's french fries. Sign
And
there.
and they also put a drive-through on top of the bars. With a drive-through, they also put.
Oh, it does say drive-through.
Yeah, because you referenced that on your last paragraph as well, right?
Yeah, so that's going to be changed to order here.
Oh, okay.
So that would be conforming. So, well, not conforming, but you and your last referral, if you look at the other one, said, yes, painting order here or drive-through here is better than having that separate sign there.
Yeah.
What's
So-
what's a headache bar?
That's what that is, a headache bar.
Can
Yeah,
you-
that's just, that's how, what they call them. To me, it's a clearance bar, but,
Yeah.
but that's what they
If you hit your head on it, you get a
You
headache.
get a headache.
You could hit your head.
And I'm also gonna
Football
recommend they
people,
take
you
off
know.
these, I've said this a million times, but
Oh,
take
those
off these.
little ribs?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they, no.
Those are the old style
Yeah.
McDonald's,
Yeah.
yeah.
And they're gonna have to take down the sign that's on the mansard right now.
Yes, they have to take
That's
it
gotta come
down.
down.
Yeah.
Looks a lot
Depend-
better than it used to.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah, Claire, what you just handed us, there's a paragraph that starts the wall sign, ...
Yes, I wanted to ask your opinion.
Okay,
Mansard roof sign, I should say.
yeah,
Yeah, it should go away.
yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
that's,
it's easy
that
applicant.
big sign
Okay, you have to
is
come
way
forward
more
to
than
the table.
enough.
I mean, you don't typically talk to the applicant at CDA, but it's up to you, of course, for secret referrals.
Yeah.
She's here.
I just wanted.
Give us your name.
Taylor Gonzalez of Brown Altman DeLeo.
Okay.
We just wanted to make a few comments. We had our CDA hearing already. It was back in October. We were supposed to receive our decision today. We had our comment period. The mansard roof sign was in front of ARB back in May or June. They had no issues with it.
Were they-
CDA had no issues with any of our signage.
Well, we're the determining board though for signage.
Except it doesn't comply to the code. I
Yeah.
mean, the ARB, their focus is narrow. They're just looking at the lettering and the design.
Aesthetics, yeah.
Yeah.
They don't speak to the, compliance with the code.
So it is in violation of the code.
So So that wasn't brought to your attention
No,
until
we had our
now?
ZBA hearing, Anthony Trezor was there, and he asked if it had been recommended to this board, and ZBA said it did not need to because it was just for signage. So we were unaware we were ever gonna be in
So
front
the
of this board.
original approval for the sites back in 1999, here, but said all signage should come to the planning board, and that's been a continuing condition of the planning board approval, because the whole site is looked at comprehensively for design, so.
Exactly.
And that was the condition of this, the planning
I
board.
mean, the
approval.
ZBA would have should have looked to a referral from the planning board, so.
Any
But-
That's our
part of the
referral.
zoning board, anything in the zoning board for 330 is referred to planning board.
Right.
But interestingly, if this is on a zoning board, which is after this meeting, will they have our comments?
I've informed them they should wait for the comments from the planning board, they know that now.
Good.
Okay, so no, should be no signage on the mansard roof, you're fine with the menu boards and the handicap bars as long as it's painted on, right?
Yep.
And then take off the plastic bars, those are the comments I'm gonna incorporate in this report.
Okay,
We'll go from there.
that's it. Okay,
I'll
Thanks
move
for
to adopt
coming. So motion,
To adopt the report.
Thank you.
a motion for the referral
I'll say.
by George, second by Dennis, all in favor. Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor. That's it. We are adjourned. Motion to adjourn by
Motion.
Kate, second by Dennis, all in favor.
Don't
Opposed,
miss the
abstentions.
Hampton.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving, everybody.